Chapter 442. But Crane's state of mind finally relaxed. With Crazy Tang's current strength, with the saint treasure in his hand, it would not be easy for any saint to have any ideas on him. His state of mind relaxed, fatigue surged towards him like a tide, he leaned on the wall and fell into a deep sleep. Liang Feng initially did not want to care about the matter. If there was only one army he might still have a chance. But surprise and all caused Liang Feng's attitude to quietly change. Liang Feng also laughed. That's true. If you have any requests, why don't you say it and we can discuss it? But he did not have any intention to fight. As the only saint of Draco constellation, his position was extremely high. Even Dragon King Tianlong could not forcefully order him. If not for the fact that his relationship with Dragon King Tianlong was not bad, he would not even agree to it. When the four constellations merged into one, the effect produced was definitely terrifying. An indescribable undulation came out from the desolate bare bone in his hands, and Tang Tian felt that it was extremely familiar. Liang Feng was filled with curiosity towards the military general in front of him and towards Tang Tian. The godlike young lad Tang Tian was said to be only 17 to 18 years old, and had a group of young geniuses by his side. All of them were young but had astonishing talent. The sensitivity of a saint to the battle environment was something that ordinary martial artists could never imagine. The blue mechanical spirit weapon came out from the crowd. The position it stopped at in Liang Feng's eyes revealed a lot of information. Of course, there might be a genius military general with exceptional talent, but to Liang Feng it was not a good thing. To make the army stop, such a reputation was good, and it was enough to prove that the opponent was afraid of his saint-level strength. But the agreement of defeat was not a good reputation and he would not fall into it. Lupus army, the sudden rise of the army, was seen as a cannon fodder by countless people, but they had won consecutive battles and were not to be underestimated. Liang Feng naturally would not look down on them, although he was not a military general, but his sensitivity to qi and qi was much stronger than ordinary military generals. This small army of a few hundred people, their qi was one and had very few flaws. On the other hand, the large mechanical army, although they had many people and could barely maintain their qi as one, but there were still many messy flaws. This bone, isn't it broken? Tang Tian did not have the slightest intention of stopping. Riding on the momentum of his victory, he killed his way over. The astral energy in his body was still surging, but it was not as violent as before. Seemed to have been tamed. Yes, I think he will wake up soon. Crane replied. He raised his head to look at the Ursa Major constellation in the sky, which was gradually disappearing. The Ursa Major constellation's Big Dipper was still much brighter than the other stars. Liang Feng knew that the other party was demanding an exorbitant price, but he also understood that this was normal. 10 days, I will only give them 10 days. If they do not agree, then we can only go and get it ourselves. Bing's tone was as sincere as an old friend. This is completely because of Brother Liang's face. 15 days, we only need 15 days and we can definitely occupy Draco constellation. We can take this wealth for ourselves. I've always been good at plundering. As for Draco constellation, we do not have much use for it. I can sell it. Draco constellation is after all one of the 5 polar domains. I think it can be sold for a good price. Immortal, Martial, Leo constellation, they should all be interested. That's 2 incomes, one in and one out. But the more he calculated, the more cautious and cold Liang Feng's heart became. He was surprised to find out that he still did not have enough confidence. His calculations were very vague and victory or defeat was just a thin line. Traps were not absolute, experts swallowing the bait and spitting out the hook, that was a common thing. And this sort of thing was extremely common to saints. Because ordinary military leaders were unable to understand the strength of saints, and when they were setting up traps, it was easy to have weaknesses and loopholes. All these minute loopholes to saints were usually enough. Such a genius, oh no, such a greedy idea, how did he think of it? If it was just the mechanical army, he had enough confidence, but with the addition of the Lupus army, the danger level of the battle would rise exponentially. As expected, in less than an hour, Draco constellation sent a reply. They agreed to Bing's conditions, but they also raised a new condition. His gaze swept across the 2 armies in front of him countless times. The huge mechanical army did not make his gaze stop for long. But the Lupus army, which was much smaller in numbers, caused his pupils to constrict. Tang Tian, who was walking around, immediately lightened his footsteps. Seeing Crane in such a state, his heart warmed. To everyone, the battle was extremely difficult. But he suppressed the restlessness in his heart and calmed down. Only then did he realize, although the opponent seemed to have left the formation, but his chi did not leave the army behind him, but seemed to be separated yet not separated. After Tang Tian came to this conclusion, he immediately smiled. Suddenly, his gaze swept across Ling Su and could not help but exclaim, "Ling Su is comprehending." And Tang Tian's side had set a deadline of 10 days, was to snatch the juiciest piece before the wolves pounced on them. If he took action himself, what were the chances of winning? From the opponent's tone, Liang Feng could tell, the opponent did not seem to have the intention of swallowing Draco Constellation. As long as the opponent was willing to talk, then it was fine. 700 m away, just outside of his attack range. Liang Feng said calmly, his heart slightly regretting agreeing to the matter. As a saint, when had he ever lowered his voice to speak to others? Me. Tang Tian was startled by Crane's words and only reacted after a while. Just at that moment, a golden bone floated in front of him, and Tang Tian subconsciously extended his hand to catch it. Liang Feng had decided that once the matter was settled, he would leave Draco Constellation. The opponent's blade was extremely ruthless, causing Draco Constellation's vitality to be greatly injured. Losing the protection of the vibrating mountain army, and losing a lot of blood, Draco Constellation would immediately attract a group of greedy people. Is this guy really a military general? Since when did military generals become so shameless like businessmen? Big Dipper 7 stars. The Big Dipper 7 stars that have been sleeping for so long have been awakened. I am really looking forward to it. This matter, using such an excuse is not good. A teasing voice came out from the blue mechanical spirit weapon. Liang Feng regained his senses after a moment and laughed. What did the benefits of Draco Constellation have to do with me? He had only come out to give Draco Constellation a chance to mediate. As for other matters, he did not plan to interfere. An exquisite blue mechanical spirit weapon flew out from the crowd, and stopped about 700 m away from him. Crap. A new tyrant, is he about to be born? Liang Feng looked at the two armies in front of him and sighed in his heart. The defeat of the vibrating mountain army had already spread back to Draco Constellation. The current Draco Constellation from top to bottom had sunk into unprecedented chaos and panic. The vibrating mountain army was Draco Constellation's strongest army. The other armies had terrible standards, and were unable to be entrusted with heavy responsibilities. Liang Feng was familiar with the higher-ups of Draco Constellation. He knew that although the conditions seemed harsh, but Draco Constellation would most likely choose to accept them. All of them were cowards without any unyielding spirit. Struggling at death's door to them was the most normal choice. Bing was not surprised by Liang Feng's attitude. As long as Liang Feng was not stupid, he would not send himself to death for Draco Constellation. Desolate bare bone. They hoped to obtain Tang Tian's protection. As long as they won. Ursa Major Constellation, Draco Constellation, Andromeda Constellation, Lupus Constellation, Ursa Major Constellation that was awakened by Big Dipper, Draco Constellation with a solid foundation, Andromeda Constellation with a flourishing business, and Lupus Constellation with a large population. Tang Tian calmed down. He was not injured, everyone was fine, the light pillar was gone. Ursa Major Constellation had returned to normal. From the looks of it, it was obvious that he had won. Liang Feng's mind immediately surfaced this word. Using the main general as bait was a common tactic used by armies to deal with high-level martial artists. But with the confidence of a saint, Liang Feng did not immediately retreat, his mind quickly calculating. The current Draco Constellation without the protection of the vibrating mountain army was like a fish on the chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered. Tang Tian could no longer remember what exactly happened at that time for the sake of assimilating the combusting star power. It was as though he was in a furnace and was in a muddle-headed state. Shrewd and ruthless. Long Zhu secretly sent out his troops. The entire Draco Constellation is extremely shocked. I hope your side can believe that Draco Constellation does not have any ambitions towards Ursa Major Constellation. The vibrating mountain army's attack is completely Long Zhu's personal actions. He suddenly realized a terrifying thing: if the alliance agreement could be formed. A misconception rose in his mind: as long as he put in a bit more strength, he could kill the opponent in one strike. To kill the main general of an army, this thought was extremely alluring. Even Liang Feng in that moment was moved. Draco Constellation. The opponent had an extremely clear and profound understanding of the strength of a saint. This seemingly normal deduction caused Liang Feng to be cautious. Before the conflict between Leo Constellation and the Honorable Martial Alliance, the entire Heaven's Road had been peaceful for too long. The confrontation between an army and a saint had never been heard of for 10 years. The strength of a saint was in the realm, in the spirit domain. Without personally experiencing it, it was hard to grasp it clearly. Tang Tian opened his eyes in a daze. Looking around, he exclaimed out loud with a face of confusion, "It's over?" Liang Feng's heart trembled. Only the big powerhouses would give military generals such an opportunity, to prevent them from being defeated when facing a saint. On account of Brother Liang's face. 300 billion star coins as compensation, 10 8th level vibrating mountain beasts, 2 gold star treasures, 10 unique spirit cards, 400 tons of dragon crystal spirit core ores. Oh, I refuse to bargain. Crane, who was resting with his eyes closed, felt helpless as expected of an unreliable fellow, but he still said warmly, "If you're done, then it's done." Liang Feng was stunned by Bing's words, "Occupy the constellation and then sell it." Liang Feng was surprised. Seems like the higher-ups of Draco Constellation were not all good for nothing, to be able to think of such a method. Rather than being dismembered, why not take the initiative to join them? Liang Feng smiled. "I am indebted to your esteemed self for thinking highly of me." Liang Feng is extremely honored, but I am just a messenger. Your conditions have already been sent back to the palace. Please wait for a moment, I believe they will give a reply. Chapter 443. Qiu Zhijun had a look of helplessness. Even the alliance between Lupus Constellation and Andromeda Constellation did not attract much attention. Andromeda Constellation's vitality was greatly damaged, most of the star doors were lost, and there were internal and external troubles. Furthermore, Andromeda Constellation belonged to the Northern Sky Constellation, the 4th grade constellation. Andromeda Constellation and Lupus Constellation's alliance, in the eyes of the big shots of Heaven's Road, was just a small village in a remote and desolate ravine. Forming an alliance with a neighboring small town, it did not affect the big picture. The strategists from all sides were calculating the changes in the situation, but no one had expected the changes to be so shocking. "If you were to go against the Lupus army, how confident are you?" Sima Xiao looked at Rong De seriously. "My lord," De Rong said in a low voice. Even though he was facing his milord, his expression was still grave and stern. In next to no time, the latest news caused everyone to feel that it was even more unbelievable. Resetting the sacred treasure, the awakening of the Big Dipper, all of this was like the stories in those legendary novels, so bizarre. The Immortal Martial Constellation was formed by the merging of 2 polar constellations, and because of its unique intelligence-gathering capabilities, it became a powerful force that could rival the 12 ecliptic palaces. An image lit up in front of him. When he took the report, his expression changed drastically. Rong De's gaze was firmly attracted by the image in front of him. Gradually, his expression turned grave. Sima Xiao was surprised. "Aren't you afraid of dying?" When Draco Constellation's vibrating mountain army entered Ursa Major Constellation, they met with Tang Tian's army and were completely wiped out. When the Lupus army surfaced, everyone finally understood that star treasures could actually be created by humans. As soon as the news came out, many people could not sit still anymore. Ursa Major Constellation changed owners at lightning speed. Rong De had an ugly appearance. He was already 56 years old this year, and he'd lived a life of failure for a long time, causing him to grow rather old. The dense bitterness between his brows coupled with the coldness emitted from his entire body caused him to be unable to help but give others the impression of being stubborn, and arrogant. "Fight." Sima Xiao raised his head and said seriously. It was not that it had never happened before for a constellation to rejudge a saint treasure, but it was rather rare. Big Dipper's awakening shocked the strategists who were familiar with history. Rong De calmly said, "There's no difference. In any case, I've already sold my life to you." Hearing this name, Rong De's cold face softened. "She's much better. Her body is stronger than before. She hasn't fallen sick in the past 6 months. I haven't thanked you yet." The Lupus army that was equipped with the strongest Andromeda star treasures, the gigantic mechanical army, immediately became the hottest topic. The formation of star treasures could not be controlled. And that had always been the biggest shackle that hindered the development of the army. There was actually an army that was equipped with the same star treasure. A snake swallowing an elephant. Rongda said coldly, I know, that's why I can't beat him. Sima Zhao's face revealed a look of surprise. Other famed generals all fight with numbers, how can you be so unambitious, to open your mouth and say that you have the advantage in numbers? Hey, I am still an adult, will you die if you give me some face? Sima Zhao said unhappily. According to common sense, any constellation that reappraised a saint treasure would have to enter a long recovery period. The abnormal phenomenon of Ursa Major constellation made everyone's gaze once again land on the mysterious Big Dipper. Yes. A look of fanaticism surfaced on Rongda's face. Lupus army compared to our army is actually weaker. And the might of their assault had obviously far exceeded the standard of their army. The only possibility was that the other party's general was involved. Wushuang, it can only be Wushuang. In such a short period of time, the star power concentration had recovered to 12%. That meant that Ursa Major constellation had stabilized and was quickly recovering. The speed of recovery caused people to be dumbstruck. In a few days, it had suddenly soared from 7% to 12%, and the momentum of the increase did not show any signs of stopping. And Big Dipper was the spirit of the violent bear. Draco constellation had officially announced that they were joining Ursa Major constellation. Sima Zhao waved his hand, you don't have to thank me. I saved your daughter just so that you can work for me, no one owes anyone anything. I am a person who does not like to talk about favors, everyone should talk about benefits. 500 against 500 we will definitely lose. Give me 1,000 men and we will win 30%. 2,000 men and we will win 50%. 5,000 men and we will definitely win. Rongda said. It is impossible for us to have 5,000 men. Sima Zhao waved his hand. If there truly was a new immortal martial powerhouse that rose up, it would affect the entire situation in Heaven's Road. Rongda turned and left. This video is the complete process of the destruction of the Vibrating Mountain Army. Qiu Zhijun said quietly. Because it involves an army's battle, we feel that you are more professional, so we want to hear your thoughts. It might seem that the data was not strange, but when Ursa Major constellation changed masters, the energy concentration of Ursa Major constellation was only 7%. What about the other mechanical army? Qiu Zhijun asked. Rongda nodded his head with a face of arrogance. That's true. Very strong. Rongda subconsciously clenched his fists tightly, his expression sinister. After a while he released his fists, his expression calmed down and said, stronger than us. Think so too. Sima Zhao seemed to have expected such an answer, his face did not have any dejection, he raised his eyebrows. Come, tell me about it. Rongda looked at Sima Zhao in disdain. You don't understand. If I am not wrong, the other party's General Wu Shuang is most likely the vanguard, and his commanding ability is definitely not high. They are like a blade sharp enough, but they only have so many people and do not have enough strength. To deal with such an opponent we need to grind them down. Sima Zhao placed down the pastries in his hand. If I did not call for you, I would not even have seen your shadow. How is Xiaoyu? Rongda straightforwardly replied, good. Orion constellation was the traditional ally of Leo constellation, and its own strength in the 10 equatorial palace halls was the peak. And the other crucial point was Orion constellation's position. Rongda did not ask why but asked after thinking, how many people do you want to give me? As expected, very quickly the well-informed powerhouses received the newest energy concentration of Ursa Major constellation, 12%. This number was not considered high, and in truth compared to the previous Ursa Major constellation, it was slightly lower. In Yen Yong Lai's era, Ursa Major constellation's energy concentration was around 15%. Compared to them, Ursa Major constellation was undoubtedly a colossus. It was a tyrant that had the qualifications to compete with the equatorial palace halls constellations. How many people do you need? Sima Zhao asked. The fairy weaving treasures became famous. That's true. Sima Zhao tilted his head and scratched his chin. But I am a person who values my personal wealth and cannot squander it. Energy concentration, also known as star power concentration, was the most crucial standard to judge a constellation's grade. But the real heavy bomb exploded 2 days later with a loud bang. Wushuang. The smile on Sima Zhao's face disappeared. The video quickly ended. Suddenly, his gaze was attracted by a messenger rushing over. He had a premonition that something big was about to happen. Ursa Major Constellation's alliance with the Honorable Martial Alliance to launch a sneak attack on Orion Constellation had attracted the attention of the entire Heavens Road. And after that, Andromeda Constellation announced that they were joining Ursa Major Constellation. Sima Xiao, who was burying his head in his food, suddenly revealed a smile and raised the pastries in his hand. Do you want some? The glory and strength of Ursa Major Constellation in the past could only be found in historical records. Many of the historical records, when describing the strength of the ancient Ursa Major Constellation, would often use the phrase, the violent bear that caused people to tremble. Before everyone could digest the shocking snake-swallowing elephant, the following battle report caused everyone to be speechless again. Only after a long time did he regain his senses. Look at this video. Sima Xiao finished his last piece of pastries, patted the crumbs in his hand and stood up. The various powerhouses in Heaven's Road were all dumbstruck by the series of explosions. These small powerhouses were like grains of sand in the Ganges River in Heaven's Road. There were countless of them and could not even be seen. Rongda was not moved and said coldly, "This subordinate is busy with military affairs. If master does not have anything, this subordinate will take his leave." Rongda acted as though he did not hear anything and was as cold as a statue. When Draco Constellation announced that they were joining Ursa Major Constellation, everyone could not help but think about Immortal Martial. Xiao Yu was his daughter and had contracted a strange disease in the past, and was in a critical situation. If not for Sima Xiao, he would have died. Truly unconvinced, Sima Xiao was filled with unwillingness. Go back and pack up your army, prepare to move out. The enemy's military leader is extremely strong. Rongda had already calmed down and said, the Lupus army's assault is most likely of the Wu Shuang grade. As the Leo constellation and Orion constellation had a close relationship, there were many star doors between them. Once Ursa Major Constellation took over Orion constellation, that meant that they could directly threaten the Leo constellation. It was easy to imagine that once they took over Orion constellation, the Honorable Martial Alliance would not hesitate to pay any price, and forge it into a sharp blade at the back of Leo constellation. And the one benefiting from it was called Tang Tian. Are we going to fight or not? Rongda was slightly impatient. Tang Tian was a name that everyone was familiar with. The Battle of Lupus Constellation had made everyone remember this young man who was still young and inexperienced. But Lupus Constellation's position in Heaven's Road was truly too low. Ecliptic palaces, equatorial palaces, polar grounds, northern sky, southern sky, Lupus Constellation belonged to the 5th-tier constellation, and was the lowest-ranked constellation. Adding that Tang Tian did not obtain the Saint Treasure of Lupus Constellation, to many people Tang Tian's group was actually just a group of bandits with a bit of strength. And the gigantic mechanical army was similarly attracting people's attention. The mechanical army that had disappeared for a long time, once again stepped onto the battlefield. The gigantic metal figures were finally no longer playthings, but had become metal fierce beasts on the battlefield. Rongda frowned and said unhappily, how can such sweet food be eaten by a man? Sima Xiao was not angry and laughed. Rongda, you really do not know how to enjoy yourself. Rongda was startled and speechless. The scene from before was still flashing past his mind. He was like a puppet standing at his original position, not moving at all. Tang Tian, this little snake, actually swallowed Ursa Major Constellation in one bite. Everyone simultaneously thought of another colossus, the Immortal Martial Arts. Rongda muttered, proficient in training recruits, his level of planning is very high and his rhythm is not bad. As for other things, I can't see much. Sima Xiao was startled for a moment, then shouted from behind, Hey, I never said we were going to fight Ursa Major Constellation. Our goal is. How is it? Evaluate it. Sima Zhao's leisurely voice entered his ears. To the knowledgeable people of the various powerhouses, the Battle of Orion Constellation could possibly be the turning point of the entire war. Could it be another Immortal Martial? How strong would Ursa Major Constellation that was lit up by Big Dipper become? Chapter 444. The cold wind swept up a leaf, blowing past Adrian's body, causing him to be dumbstruck. The discussions outside were everywhere, but Tang Tian and the rest did not have the time to care. Everyone was extremely busy. When Huoma Air and the rest received the order, their eyes immediately turned green. 13% star power concentration, and it was still rising. What was the star power concentration of Lupus constellation? 1%. I do not know at the moment. Adrian said, these alliance generals are not the strongest in the clan union. Looking at the vast and mighty group of people, Hua Er's nose suddenly turned sour, her eyes turning red. These people were extremely unhappy with Tang Tian's entry, and displayed a rather repulsive attitude. They were even more proficient in handling ingredients, how to cook delicacies, how to concoct good wine. Their fighting strength on the battlefield was almost zero. They were the cheapest cannon fodder in Heaven's Road. Their dignity in death was only worth a few hundred star coins. Now that they were suddenly told that they could enter Ursa Major constellation to settle down, it was like being smashed by a huge pie. Do you know what to do? Black Wolf Great Clan Elder said coldly. We need to work hard and improve, to set off the incompetence and laziness of those fools. Crane saw that when Adrian heard that, he stopped in his tracks and reminded him helplessly, didn't you ask him to go interrogate Wang Yi? Adrian felt that he had seen much of the world and was a quick-witted old man, but he realized he could not keep up with Tang Tian's thoughts and rhythm. To mix in with Tang Tian's side and pretend to be a helper to be captured as a captive, so be it. Now to ask him to interrogate a new captive. There was no one in front of him. Crane stood up and nodded his head to Adrian. I have something to do, I will take my leave first. The various tribes were mobilizing for the last time. All the virtuous and respectable clan elders were all screaming at the top of their lungs, spitting saliva in front of their own clansmen. The martial artists of Ursa Major constellation Yen Yong Lai's generation were all coming out in full force. And all the aristocratic families all threw themselves into Orion constellation. The remaining were mostly martial artists who did not have high fighting strength, although their realms were not low, but the martial techniques they trained in were not for fighting but for production and living. The cultured and refined great clan elder of the Ice Wolf tribe said earnestly, such an opportunity in Lupus constellation has never happened before. Each and every one of you is the luckiest person alive. However, I hope that you will not forget your mission. Your performance in Ursa Major constellation is directly related to the future rise and fall of our tribe, directly related to Master Lupus King's impression of our Lupus race. Tang Tian actually asked him to interrogate the captives. That's not how conspiracies are played, okay? If you want to subdue me, you should make friends with me. At the very least, you should say, untie me. I'm a captive. How can you be so righteous as to ask me to interrogate a captive? Adrian walked over expressionlessly. Adrian said expressionlessly, the leader of the operation against the Ursa Major constellation is called Sima Shao. Sima Shao was the youngest clan elder in the clan union. His way of doing things was strange and unpredictable, and had a strong influence in the clan union. These spirit generals were called alliance generals. The union generals had appeared very early on, but the clan union was not focused enough, until Sima Shao pushed them in the dark, and they finally researched on the method to continuously devour. The strength of the alliance generals rose greatly. Adrian looked at the prison cell in front of him with a complicated expression. His Majesty Lupus King was truly too powerful to take out such a fertile land, and did not forget about them who were in poverty. Crane was surprised. Don't tell me the clan union has ulterior motives towards Ursa Major constellation? Oh, I remember now. Tang Tian slapped his forehead and said happily, I feel that although he is not as smart as me, but he should be able to deal with Wang Yi. With that, he soared into the sky like a confident and unrestrained big black crane. He disappeared. Just what was in this guy's head? The elder with the bad temper from the Flame Wolf tribe roared, all of you better be tensed up. I will say the ugly words first. All of you going to Ursa Major constellation is not to enjoy life but to suffer. All of you have to work even harder than here. No one knows if there will be another chance like this in the future. Whoever dares to drag us down, I will break their legs. For a constellation like Ursa Major constellation, the conditions to settle down were extremely harsh. Other than the local martial artists, if other martial artists wanted to stay, they would have to pay a high amount of the so-called star power usage fee every month. This fee to the poor Lupus martial artists was definitely an astronomical figure. In the dilapidated palace of Ursa Major constellation, Tang Tian and a few others were studying the spirit generals of the clan union. Seeing Ling Su alone facing 4 spirit generals, it was an explosive scene. the sinister and cunning great clan elder of the Black Wolf tribe said without batting an eyelid. Ursa Major Constellation is a group of idiots, they truly have no limits. At this time they still dare to show their face to the master, hee, this is our chance. Don't tell me they already have a new target? Crane was moved. The kind-hearted Crane took the initiative. I wonder what did Mr. Hunter gain? It's my turn to try. Tang Tian was eager to try. Suddenly the horn sound on Crane's wrist trembled slightly. Horn sound was formed from many triangles, and was a common star treasure of Triangulum constellation, used for long-distance communication. Her face blossomed into a sincere smile. Suddenly she thought about the first time she met the young man and the rest, thinking about the fate of the Lupus people, to be changed by that one encounter. She was truly fortunate. What chance? Clan Elder. Someone shouted from below. A grand and spectacular Lupus constellation great martial competition was about to begin. What is he doing here? Tang Tian was surprised. Without saying a word, Tang Tian agreed. Of course, he naturally threw the matter to Crane. Interesting. Tang Tian looked as though he had seen something fun. His eyes lit up. His fighting strength is very strong, completely unlike the other spirit generals. He is very agile and full of killing intent. The star power concentration of Ursa Major Constellation had already risen to 13%. Such a concentration, although Ursa Major Constellation was heavily injured, it was still full of vitality. Crane immediately passed down the order to Homa Air. Considering Ursa Major Constellation's ability to endure, he gave her a quota of 1 million. Fighting was always a specialized skill that required long periods of training to be able to comprehend. He looked up into the sky, lost in thought. After a long while he lowered his head and quietly walked towards the prison. No one cared about him. Yes, in terms of fighting strength they are extremely strong. They have an instinctive reaction to fighting and are extremely vicious. Crane's face did not conceal the disgust. No one came to bring him to the prison. No one had any reaction to his interrogation. No one told him if he was going to live or die. No one told him what to do next. The faces in front of him were brimming with hope and yearning for the future. The light aura in their eyes was called hope. Homa Air did not expect such a situation. After that, someone called for a martial competition, and the quota would be decided according to the results. Adrian said expressionlessly, "That does not seem to be the case. The orders that Wang Yi received had a lot of content that is directed at you. For example, to gather information on you and observe the strength of your armies. Wang Ye's other mission is to infiltrate Draco Constellation. But from the looks of it, they do not have any plans to take over Draco Constellation, including Ursa Major Constellation. This is very strange. Until now the clan union is formed by a few small families, and their living environment is not good. A higher level constellation to them means a lot. For many years, Lupus Constellation had always been the poorest and most barren place in Heaven's Road. The martial artists here lived a life where they could not even fill their stomachs, and their lives were extremely short. Their faces were forever cruel and cold. They were a group of hungry wolves. Not only did they have to fight with the heavens and earth, they had to fight with their own kind. Woo! The young men were extremely excited. Mr. Hunter is here. Crane saw a figure walking over and reminded Tang Tian. Tang Tian, who could not hold it in any longer, howled, rushed into the field, and snatched 2 alliance generals from Ling Su's hands and started to fight. The huge group was like a torrent heading towards the direction of hope, rumbling forward. We have the chance to kick them out. The Black Wolf Great Wolf chuckled and said, "Think about it. Those fools were watching coldly from the sidelines while you guys performed very well. You were very hardworking and not afraid of death." When the Wolf King saw this, he thought, the Jackal tribe is still the most reliable. And then, His Majesty Wolf King thought about it. With such a small number of people, it is not enough. At that time your brothers and sisters will have the chance. Homa Air and the rest moved. He had to prepare to settle down so many people. It was a complicated matter. In the entire Lupus constellation, all the big and small tribes gathered at Homa Air's side. The group of old fellows were all excited, spittle flying everywhere and quarreling incessantly. Crane quickly realized he had no one to use. Crane, let's go. 13% star power concentration. That was like bathing in the star power. Such a place was something they did not even dare to dream of. Even martial artists like Homa Air, who had gone out to explore before, could not help but be excited. He noticed that Adrian's footsteps were sluggish, and his heart immediately sympathized with him. Adrian completely did not know how to describe his own feelings. Lupus constellation was all boiling. After an hour he came out of the prison cell. Many people's eyes lit up. The Lupus race's families were usually big, who did not have brothers and sisters. And recently the Fairy Commerce Alliance had been transporting food into Lupus constellation, causing the prices to drop by a lot, and everyone's lives had improved. The Lupus race's strong reproduction ability immediately manifested, and many people had younger brothers and sisters in the past 2 years. Crane's deadline was very short and Hua Air was extremely busy, but her face was always brimming with smiles. When the curtains of the competition came down, the candidates were finally decided. 13% energy concentration, that was something that Lupus constellation did not even dare to think about, and the Lupus martial artists had to break their heads to get it. It was as if he was forgotten. Facing such a situation, Crane suggested to Tang Tian to move the martial artists from Lupus constellation over. Tang Tian thought about it. The martial artists of Ursa Major constellation did not like him. If they did not like him, then they did not like him, no one else. Did Lupus constellation still lack people? Chapter 445. Crane had yet to return. Bing was stationed at Draco constellation. Even Hua Air was at Lupus constellation. Tang Tian was stunned to realize that there was no one around him. Oh, there was one more. Tang Tian felt as though his head was about to explode. All of his subordinates were looking at him. All of them were the first batch of Lupus martial artists to arrive, and they all took up the responsibility of managing Tang Tian. Quickly invite him in. Tang Tian smiled. All of his worries were temporarily thrown to the side. What kind of expectations did it place on Tang Tian? He was familiar with history, and every time a chaotic era came, the saint level would always surge. The envoy from Aquila constellation has sent over an invitation. He felt that it was inconceivable. He had never heard of any saint treasure that would help its owner so much. Tang Tian. But Xiao Juzi said anxiously. I knew Han Tao would be a happy Han Tao. Tang Tian cut Long Shou Jing without hesitation, and turned to face the surrounding Lupus martial artists. Hey, if you have any questions, ask him. 27%. Of course, that was not what truly surprised him. With his saint-level strength, even the 12 ecliptic palaces would treat him as a guest. Just that, to him now, raising the concentration of star power did not have any substantial help. Any new powerhouse would always have a stronger thirst for talent than those stable powerhouses. Hidden in his sleeves was a silver plate the size of a coin. In the next moment he lowered his head to take a look, a light aura flashing past his eyes. Such a tyrant, how could he be neglected? Oh, I have to think of a way to plunder more. In the end, all of the responsibilities landed on the 4th-ranked Prince Shoujing. 300 billion star coins, 10 8th-level vibrating mountain beasts, 2 gold-ranked treasures, 10 unique spirit cards, 400 tons of dragon crystal spirit core ores. Furthermore, he was not alone. He had his own family, his own disciples. The godlike young lad's name was currently like the sun in the sky. Tang Tian had too many miracles on him. He was like a mystery formed from miracles. Tang Tian had become the center of Ursa Major constellation's star power. Long Shou Jing was also secretly sizing up Tang Tian. What if we join the Honorable Martial Alliance? The girl asked, unwilling to give up. The absent-minded Long Shou Jing subconsciously said, there are people who are hoarding and profiteering. We need to frighten them and gradually build a perfect market. Tang Tian's fleeing figure could clearly be seen at the entrance of the hall. It was not his first time coming to the Ursa Major Constellation Palace. The palace in front of him was much more dilapidated than the last time, but it did not have any signs of decadence. Liang Feng decided to travel with Long Shou Jing. Long Shou Jing's performance these few days also made him secretly nod in his heart. The illusion he had when he stepped into the palace was not an illusion. Ursa Major Palace. Suddenly he thought of something and his body shuddered. At this moment he suddenly heard Tang Tian's smiling voice. Master, a large number of unknown people have appeared around the Stargate. Desolate bare bone, what's the concentration of the star power? Long Shou Jing asked without turning his head. Lingxi, do you have any ideas? Tang Tian asked with anticipation. Draco Constellation. Long Shou Jing greets your majesty. He was an indifferent person and did not like to fight for power, but towards his own talent he was rather conceited. But when he saw the young Tang Tian in front of him, he could not help but become absent-minded. She said hatefully, "Humph, your majesty and the rest are too useless to actually retreat at such a time. Luckily we have brother Shou Jing." The entire Ursa Major constellation's star power surged into Tang Tian's body, and then surged out from his body, dispersing into the heaven and earth. The star power in the air was lively and brimming with life because it was the imperial city. The concentration of star power was much higher than other places. Long Shou Jing shook his head looking at the distant Ursa Major palace, his expression faintly sad. "No more. The vibrating mountain army is defeated and we have lost our last chance." The concentration of star power in the palace had actually reached an astonishing 27%. He straightened his body and took the lead to walk in front. "Let's go, let us go meet the legendary godlike young man." Ling Su turned his head, his face determined. "It's very simple. Draco constellation." What popped out in Tang Tian's mind was Bing's list. "You can call me Tang Tian." Tang Tian did not like being addressed as Your Majesty, and sized Long Shou Jing up and down. "No wonder it's called a handkerchief, it looks like it will fly away when the wind blows. This handkerchief's aura, it's similar to Little Crane. Oh, people who look like this seem to be more intelligent." Immortal Martial Envoy requests to pay a visit to Master. "As expected, I am still smarter than Ling Su," Tang Tian silently cried in his heart. A young lady dressed in green beside him could not help but ask, "Brother Shou Jing, do we really not have a chance?" Long Shou Jing looked at the palace in the distance and stopped in his tracks. The guards by Long Shou Jing's side all revealed looks of indignation. Draco constellation had met with an unprecedented danger and everyone was helpless. Prince Shou Jing took the initiative to think of a solution, but no one expected that Draco King would push the boat with the current, and actually took the initiative to give up the throne. And the other three successors were even worse. One escaped in the middle of the night and the other two pretended to be sick. Tang Tian was dumbstruck. This godlike young man would never do such things. Long Shou Jing sighed lightly, his face was pale white, his expression gloomy, his body somewhat frail as though he would be blown away by the wind. Long Shou Jing was not the only one who was shocked. Liang Feng, who was traveling with him, looked at Tang Tian as though he was looking at a ghost. As a saint, Liang Feng's position in Draco constellation was extremely high. Countless young geniuses would break their heads to enter his sword garden. He had seen countless geniuses, but none of them could be compared to the abnormal person in front of him. Long Shou Jing's first reaction was so young. To be able to be called a young man, he was definitely not old. But personally seeing that Tang Tian was only 17 to 18, like an ordinary student, the shock in his heart could be imagined. "Master, Draco Constellation's diplomatic group seeks an audience." Liang Feng looked at Long Shou Jing with interest. Initially he did not have anything to do, but the thoughts from that day lingered in his mind. The four constellations merging into one, Ursa Major constellation had the qualifications to become a tyrant, and Liang Feng could not help but secretly think. After interacting with Bing and observing the two armies from a close distance, his heart became even more certain. He thought that the huge numbers of mechanical armies under Bing's tutelage were continuously improving. Tang Tian was overjoyed. "What do I do? What do I do?" Tang Tian's smile blossomed like a flower and said, "Hand towel, how about helping me with something?" In times of danger one could only see how a person was. There was nothing better than war to sharpen a martial artist, and nothing better than war to allow a martial artist to grow faster. War would allow martial artists to become stronger and stronger, and would also allow armies to become bigger and bigger. No matter how conceited he was, he would definitely not be able to establish such a huge foundation at Tang Tian's age. Hearing the young lady's words, Long Shou Jing chuckled. He rubbed her head and said, "Xiao Juzi, don't be sad, we are actually not too bad now. Draco constellation is not easy to be, but puppets are easy to be." "Master, Ursa Major constellation's food prices have skyrocketed, and many of the merchants have closed their shops." The eyes of the bodyguard beside him lit up with a misty light aura. A number lit up in his vision, and very quickly the light aura disappeared. He bowed and replied, "Your Highness, the star power concentration is 14%. This value had already reached the standard of the 10 equatorial palace halls. Hand towel, if the market price of food increases and many of the shops close, what do we do? Then we will lose even more and it will be even more greedy. Long Shou-jing rubbed the young lady's head. He was a saint, his gaze was sharp and experienced, and in his eyes, it was a terrifying scene. On normal days, the first 3 successors were all outstanding and elegant and dazzling, but Prince Shou-jing did not have any sense of existence. If not for him taking the initiative to suggest joining Ursa Major constellation, everyone would have forgotten that he was a successor. At that time I was still in some corner of the academy. We have failed. Long Shou-jing looked at Xiao Juzi, his expression calm. There is always a price to pay for failure, and this price is already very light. After taking over the mess, Prince Shou-jing immediately calmed the hearts of the people, and personally paid a visit to the commander of the enemy army, and then traveled day and night towards Ursa Major Palace. Long Shou-jing, who was at a loss, was surrounded by the tide of martial artists. As expected of Smart Hand Towel, Ling Su, who was by the side, was like a cat that had sensed danger. He suddenly opened his eyes wide and moved his butt far to the side. Every time Crazy Tang used such a tone to speak, someone would be unlucky. Long Shou-jing respectfully bowed. Any saint, upon seeing such a scene, would feel fear from the bottom of their hearts. The flow of the star power was not fast, on the contrary, it was extremely slow, and ordinary martial artists would not be able to sense it. But their numbers were too astonishing. Even though it was slowly flowing, the scene was still astonishing. They had witnessed Prince Shou-jing's hard work and were secretly in awe. In the 5 polar domains, a place with a concentration of 27% of the star power had never been seen before, and Liang Feng could acutely sense that the concentration was still increasing. Ling Su raised the silver spear in his hand with a look of certainty. I will stab them all to death. He squatted down, smiled, and patted Xiao Juzi's shoulder. And it is just returning to my previous life, being quiet and peaceful is good. With such a powerful military leader and 2 outstanding armies, Ursa Major Constellation's future was limitless. This judgment immediately made him take the initiative, although he was a saint, but he knew his own limits. The war would definitely not end in a short period of time, and would only become more intense, and in the end the entire Heaven's Road would be embroiled in it. Although he was a saint in such a chaotic world, his life was like grass. Tang Tian was extremely anxious. But at that moment the young lady seemed to have felt Long Shou-jing's sorrow. She pouted her lips, her face sad. Long Shou-jing woke up, a bad premonition rising in his heart, but he could only bite the bullet. Your Majesty, please speak, I'm afraid. Shou-jing's ability. The young lady was only 13 to 14 years old, lively and cute. Her face was like a rosy apple. She liked to childishly shake her face, her apple face blossoming into a brilliant smile, her neat short hair fluttering in the air. Unless Ursa Major Constellation's destroyed inheritance was inside the desolate bare bone. After that, all sorts of matters, like 100 streams flowing back to the sea, came to Tang Tian. All of the bodyguards were the most elite martial artists of Draco Constellation, and Draco King and the other successors' unbearable performance made them feel humiliated. If not for the fact that they had long established their roots in Draco Constellation, if not for Prince Shou-jing's performance, which made them feel a sense of comfort, they would have long left Draco Constellation. Chapter 446. When the busy lupus martial artists saw Crane, they immediately stood up and bowed. Ling Su glanced at them and spat out 2 words, apple. Crane walked along the ruins of the palace and very quickly found Tang Tian's figure. Crane was curious but was not anxious. He understood Tang Tian well, although Crazy Tang was always crazy, but he was extremely stingy and would definitely not make life difficult for star coins. To be able to make such a decision with such a huge loss, there must be some other reason. Long Shou-jing's face had a smile. Seems like these people are not hard to get along with. He turned his face and looked towards the direction of Orion Constellation, his heart shouting silently. Haha, that's right, this godlike young lad has an earth-shattering plan. Tang Tian said happily. The progress of the Kyber egg plan had increased exponentially, because the training area was an egg shape, so Tang Tian decided to call it the bear egg. Was he not afraid that he would play some tricks? Good person. Tang Tian's face was filled with disdain. Crane's face revealed a smile. Greetings Prince Shou-jing, greetings Miss Juzi. You assholes. Crane's eyes lit up, an indescribable aura suddenly released. causing the surrounding martial artists to sense it and could not help but shiver. Tang Tian's face became even more pleased. I want to build a very, very big egg and erect a very sturdy pillar inside. It needs to be very tall. After that, it will be filled with sturdy ropes. Every layer will be filled from the pillar all the way outside. In the future, everyone can sit on the ropes and meditate and train. Oh, I am also preparing to dig underground and use ropes. Ropes are good, they do not take up much space. Everyone just squeeze together and make full use of it. Crane was dumbstruck hearing that, in his mind, a gigantic pillar that pierced through the clouds appeared, with countless of densely packed thick ropes hanging down, like a spiderweb extending 14 li outwards. Every rope was like dried meat hanging from it. Oh no, sitting on it were full of martial artists. What is Crazy Tang doing? Crane muttered in his mind. Ursa Major Palace was built using Yen Yong Lai's blood and sweat. It was grand and majestic and was a spectacular sight. The capital city had gone through many generations to reach its current scale. Tang Tian actually wanted to tear it down? Tang Tian turned around in surprise. Do you think it looks like an apple or an orange? That scene was too terrifying. Handkerchief. Crane's heart had a sense of empathy as expected. Honest people will always be bullied. Sure enough, Tang Tian gave a and a proud expression appeared on his face again. Hand towel, come and tell little Crane. Currently, the star power concentration in the center of the bear egg had already reached 31%. This terrifying value was already extremely close to the star power concentration of Sexton's constellation of the 10 equatorial palace halls. Sexton's constellation's foundation was its 33% star power concentration, and it was because of its high star power concentration that it became one of the most famous training constellations in Heaven's Road. On the day the bear egg was completed, everyone was still shocked by this building that they had built with their own hands. It was as if they were inside a huge egg, with a thick and solid bronze pillar standing in the middle of the egg. The densely packed ropes were like spiderwebs that spread out in all directions, entering the inner walls of the egg. Every rope had an entrance and exit, and martial artists only needed to step on the ropes and use light body techniques to move forward. Every rope had different lengths. The longest was 14 li, which was 7,000 meters. The shortest was 6 li, which was 3,000 meters. And on the ropes, every person had a space of 1.5 m. That also meant the longest rope could hold 4,000 martial artists. The shortest could also hold 1,500 martial artists. What are you guys doing? Crane's face was filled with surprise. Crane's footsteps stopped. He resisted the urge to stab Tang Tian with his sword. He pretended to be nonchalant and walked slowly. Such a big formation, what's the reason? Martial artists that were like locusts. And Adrian was about to become the dean of the Million Lupus martial artists. The dean of the Bear Egg Martial Courtyard. Furthermore, Tang Tian had not swallowed Draco Constellation yet. If he swallowed Draco Constellation's Saint Treasure, then Ursa Major Constellation's strength would soar once again. Everyone who heard the name revealed an expression that could not bear to hear it. The Lupus martial artists were cannon fodder, but 1,000,000 cannon fodder was enough to cause fear. The movement of 1,000,000 cannon fodder could not be hidden. From Lupus Constellation to Ursa Major Constellation, they had to pass through Andromeda Constellation. When the 1,000,000 Lupus martial artists formed a wolf tide and entered Andromeda Constellation, it caused a huge commotion and panic. Crane was curious. How do you plan to use them? The veins on Xiao Juzi's forehead twitched. She endured it. Xiao Juzi had to be sensible and not cause trouble for Big Brother Shou Jing. Really? Xiao Juzi raised her head. Her face was filled with anticipation, but also a little embarrassed. The young lady Juzi by his side also followed and bowed. Big Brother Prince Crane, I am Long Juzi. Crane listened quietly and did not interrupt. He could not understand Tang Tian's thoughts at all. Adrian had the name of a hunter. He had once personally brought an unknown academy to Orion Constellation's first academy, and had the glorious history of it. But 1,000,000 students, the number of students he had in his entire teaching career was not that many. Swoosh, everyone's gaze landed on Crane. Andromeda Constellation that was beyond recognition, had recovered to its original state in a night. Long Shou Jing could only open his mouth. This was Master Liang Feng's discovery. Master Liang Feng discovered, the entire Ursa Major Constellation's star power is circulating around His Majesty. Just that. You guys need to hold on a little longer. Seeing Crane, Tang Tian's eyes lit up. He jumped up and waved his hands. Little Crane. The martial artists around Long Shou Jing became serious. The black-robed young man was the rumored Prince Crane. The rumors outside said that Crane had the possibility of controlling Sagittarius constellation. The Empress had never denied this rumor, and more importantly, the Empress had never appointed a successor for Sagittarius constellation, so the credibility of this rumor rose. Prince Crane. I am Long Shou Jing. Long Shou Jing bowed. I greet Prince Crane. Hypocrite. Ling Su spat out 2 words. Crane did not care about him. His gaze landed on Long Shou Jing, who had a sickly pale face, and asked in surprise, "This is?" Tang Tian scoffed. "Of course we have to demolish it. The concentration of star power, every inch of land is worth its weight in gold. We definitely cannot waste it. Those palaces are a hindrance. Furthermore, the assholes in the city went against me. They were playing tricks in the dark and were taken care of by hand towel. Such a good place. How can we let them have it so easily? I want them all to move out." How stupid was he to hand over 1,000,000 people to a captive? Crane brought 1,000,000 people, and in this 1,000,000 people there were no old, young or weak. They were all the most robust martial artists and youths of Lupus constellation. Crane nodded his head but was puzzled. But there is no need to demolish the palace. Long Shou Jing continued. The high concentration of star power to saints or half-step saints does not have much meaning. Their true power is already close to the limit. But to middle and low-level martial artists, it can greatly shorten their training period. So His Majesty has decided to build a brand new training area here. Of course. Crane took out a small gift and consoled. This little crane is for Miss Juzi. Only such a beautiful little sister like Miss Juzi is worthy of it. When Crane rushed to Ursa Major Palace covered in dust, he was surprised. All the constellations that bordered Andromeda constellation originally took the chance to occupy the star door, but upon seeing the terrifying wolf tide, all the constellations retracted all their forces in fear and completely retreated. Crane shuddered. Adrian's emotions were complicated. It was not because of the difficulty of the challenge, but because he was still a captive. Crane saw Xiao Juzi's mouth flattened, tears welling up in her eyes, and immediately said warmly, "Xiao Juzi is truly beautiful." Ling Su looked at Tang Tian with disdain. Childish. Adrian was shocked for a long time. The structure in front of him was a miracle. Bears do not lay eggs. He shook his head, throwing away the doubts in his mind. Regardless of what Tang Tian was thinking, he would not give up on his own ideas. Maybe he could think of some place that could help Orion constellation. If he were to kill his way back alone, it would not help the situation at all. Here maybe he could think of a way to affect Tang Tian and affect Ursa Major constellation. That would be of even greater help to Orion constellation. Xiao Juzi, you obviously look like an apple. Why are you called Xiao Juzi? Tang Tian had a weird look on his face. It was definitely the biggest training ground in history. Crane dared to confirm if any of the scouts from any constellation saw such a shocking scene, they would definitely not have the courage to attack Ursa Major constellation. The majestic palaces had disappeared, and there were martial artists everywhere, continuously flattening the big and small palaces. Flattening the palaces, His Majesty requested for all the palaces to be flattened. The entire capital must be flattened, and all the citizens in the capital have moved out. It's great that Your Highness Crane is here. We do not have enough manpower. The martial artist's face was filled with joy. Adrian did not know why Tang Tian did not swallow up Draco constellation, but the scene in front of him had already caused him to be deeply shaken. Xiao Juzi received it happily. Thank you, big brother, Your Highness Crane. Although Long Shou Jing was surprised, but he was not affected too much. He continued. After our research we found out the closer to Master the denser the star power. With Master as the center, the density of the star power in a radius of 1 kilometer is the highest. Currently it has already reached 29%, and for every 1 kilometer the density will decrease by 1%. Currently, Ursa Major constellation's average star power density has risen to 15%. That also means with Master as the center, there is a high-density star power region of 14 kilometers. Crane's face was filled with helplessness, but he knew how to deal with Tang Tian and coughed lightly. Where's your earth-shattering big plan? The ordinary places of Ursa Major constellation had a density of 17%, which had already surpassed Yen Yong Lai's era, and the value was still rising. Such a scene caused Angelina's emotions to become extremely complicated. she immediately took action to select immortal female martial artists with potential, and sent them to Ursa Major constellation. Every distance apart there would be eye-catching signs, reminding the martial artists of the star power density. And every rope had a number so that the martial artists could easily find them. The maximum number of martial artists that Bear Egg could hold was 520,000 people. Even with Liang Feng's saint-level temperament, he could not help but have the urge to roll his eyes. Recently he had seen so many perverse people. To him, it was a form of ridicule. Chapter 447. Sword Ray. Whirlpool Sword Spirit Tempering Technique. This Tang Tian truly does not want to live anymore. The man who spoke had thick eyebrows and a bald head. He looked simple and honest. Could it be that he knew we were going to make a move? Using this method to protect themselves? Normally Adrian would have despised these students for being too dull, but faced with such a large number of students in such a short time, he was filled with joy. Hiss hiss hiss. Idiot. It was publicly acknowledged as the cruelest soul tempering technique. This was very convenient. He only needed to choose those elders with prestige. It was as if Lu Zhongguang had transformed into a werewolf, stepping on ropes and inspecting along the way, his mouth constantly roaring. Long Shoujing was in charge of all the work in Bear Head City. Following the Fairy Commerce Union's injection of energy into the market, the new Bear Head City had already started to glow with life, and the market had become much more prosperous. A pained expression appeared on Tang Tian's face. Of course, the majority of the Ursa Major constellation martial artists were not willing to call him that, but following the countless of stupid things that Tang Tian had done, they all liked to call Tang Tian as Ursa Major Stupid Master. Out of these lupus warriors he had no idea how many experts and saints there would be. Your Majesty's true power is full. His next cultivation would focus on his martial soul. If your Majesty wants to maintain the Bear Egg for a long time, you should feel ashamed. Even a bone was so sneaky. Calm down. Calm down. Impulsiveness is the devil. In the depths of his mind, a flustered and exasperated voice let loose a torrent of curses. Tang Tian's pupils, which had lost focus, instantly contracted to the size of needles. Liang Feng was suddenly filled with confidence for the future. Sword Vortex. He read through the Ursa Major Star's umbrella technique at a glance, and after a while he had some comprehension. You with the surname He, don't use words to pressure me. Who is the Bear King? To this old man it doesn't matter. This old man doesn't have much ability, so I'm convinced by real men. The fool would have nothing to say even if King Yonglai lost to him after this round. Losing isn't a big deal. Losing to a true hero is more convincing. If he were to increase his overall strength by 2 ranks. The 3 of them fell silent. None of them knew what to say. Alright, I don't really have a choice. Sleeping is better than dying. Although he was a little dumb, his courage was unparalleled. I really don't know what to do. Sharing a body with this idiot is really too dangerous. No one knew who created the Whirlpool Sword Spirit Tempering Technique. It had always been passed down among sword martial artists, but very few dared to try it. There were all sorts of spirit tempering methods, but the principle was the same, which was to use true power to temper the martial spirit. Liang Feng looked at Tang Tian as if he had seen a ghost. The so-called true power is the energy that we can use after we absorb and transform it. What is star power then? It was produced by the constellation and had a unique attribute of energy. So why was there a difference between constellation martial artists? Some people said that it was the constellation inheritance, but in fact the source was star power. Every constellation operated in a different way, and the star power they produced were all different. How could he unleash the power of these completely different star forces? That would form the unique inherited martial techniques of each constellation. Why was it that when martial artists from other constellations learned these inherited martial techniques, their power would be greatly reduced? It was because the true power in their bodies was not compatible with their martial techniques. Some people said, I trained in the corresponding mental cultivation technique, but the star power that you absorb in your body has its own inherent nature. If you want to change it, you will need to spend more time, so the efficiency is lower. Once the spirit flame was extinguished, the damage to the martial artist was huge, and it meant that the martial artist was completely crippled. If the spirit flame was not extinguished, the injury could be recovered, but once the spirit flame was extinguished, it was impossible to recover. Everyone's expression froze. Adrian stood at the entrance, looking at the densely packed lupus martial artists on the ropes. He asked without turning his head. What's the concentration of the star power? How do we remove it? The bald man snorted. The entire Ursa Major constellation's star power is gathering and circulating in his body. How thick are the sword auras around him? You're a sword user, speak. Everyone's attention was roused. They all pricked up their ears, afraid to miss out on a single word. Spirit domain had always been mysterious and unfathomable to martial artists. Gaining enlightenment on spirit domain was the symbol of being bestowed as a saint, and spirit domain was the main method of attack after the saint rank. Teacher, how long does the whirlpool sword spirit tempering technique last? Xiao could not help but ask. Liang Feng had never seen the real whirlpool sword spirit tempering technique before, but he was 100% sure that what Tang Tian was doing was the legendary whirlpool sword spirit tempering technique. There was no need to worry about them not listening to orders. The obedience of the lupus martial artists was so good that Adrian felt that it was inconceivable. Whatever you asked them to do, they would do it without hesitation and never asked why. Pai Pa's words immediately made Tang Tian sit up straight, his expression becoming solemn. Everyone's eyes turned green. The rumor was not just a rumor. Old Man Fei knew that even the previously silent Fornax constellation strategy was slowly being pushed forward. In truth, all of the martial techniques that we are using now have the ultimate goal of the spirit domain. Liang Feng's words were shocking and his face couldn't help but flush slightly. These were all the insights he'd gained from his many years of research, and he usually kept it a secret. Now that he'd explained it to so many people, it actually made him feel like he was preaching the Tao. A smile suddenly appeared on his face. Tang Tian completely did not expect such a reaction. The process of tempering the spirit flame was extremely painful. Every time he tempered the martial spirit in the past, the pain of the blade cutting into his bones left a deep impression on Tang Tian. Adrian was very experienced. When he knew that he wanted to groom 1,000,000 people, the first thing he did was to choose a teacher from the lupus martial artists. As expected of the whirlpool sword spirit tempering technique. Everyone treasured it. Liang Feng only felt a mouthful of blood rushing to his throat. He had spent so much effort, flipped through all the records and prepared a killing technique, but it actually failed. 3 Spirits City. But when 1,000,000 people were like that scene, the impact it brought was incomparable. Tang Tian did not alarm too many people. He came to Sai Lei's laboratory. Sai Lei noticed Tang Tian's arrival, glanced at him and said impatiently, "Don't come over and cause trouble, I'm busy." Tang Tian's face suddenly revealed a cold smile. The atmosphere in the base was jubilant. Tang Tian had defeated Ursa Major constellation, causing everyone's confidence to soar. In the past, although the base's treatment was good, but no one knew what would happen in the future. But with Ursa Major constellation without question in the upcoming chaotic world, everyone would have a place to settle down. Assassination. Pai Pa's face was filled with worry. Xiao's gaze turned towards the center at the figure enveloped in layers of sword light. It's been so many years, but we still have to wait and see if we can endure it, then we are real men. Full enjoy it well. He was an intelligent man. He was good at judging the situation and knew his own limits. Although he was a saint, but in truth he still felt a little guilty teaching Tang Tian and the rest. To him, under normal circumstances he might not have the qualifications to teach them. They were quiet. Other than quietly training, they rarely spoke. But every time they opened their eyes, they would reveal a hint of fanaticism, causing Xiao to feel a formless pressure. Not good. The whirlpool sword spirit tempering technique was not a secret. Many sword martial artists knew of it, but very few dared to try it. Other than courage in history, there were many who were unable to endure the pain of the whirlpool sword spirit tempering technique and died. Tang Tian's spirit flame was like a candle. Upon being struck by the intense star power, it could be extinguished at any time. The one who is most likely to make a move on us is Cetus constellation. And between us and Cetus constellation there is a star door. Of course, other constellations can also take advantage of it. I'm done. Then what is a martial spirit? Does everyone still remember how a martial spirit comes about? A martial spirit is produced when your true power reaches a certain level. In the beginning, the martial spirit is very faint, like a mist, but as it continues to congeal, it will form into different forms. Then what exactly is a martial spirit? A martial spirit is your spirit that has been transformed by energy. If you all have mental cultivation techniques for martial spirits, you will realize the essence of these mental cultivation techniques is to use true power to temper your spirit. The more thorough the transformation, the higher the grade of the martial spirit. Furthermore, they still had an even more terrifying leader. CSI, a hissing sound that caused people's hearts to palpitate, came out from Tang Tian's body. The star power whirlpool suddenly transformed into countless of minute fragmented flows. Every flow was as sharp as a sword. Xiao's eyes widened. Such a torture to actually last for a month. Can this brat even endure it? This brat obviously did not train in sword techniques. Xiao looked at the data and said calmly, "It's already close to 40%. The increase in the past few days is very large. The whirlpool sword spirit tempering technique seems to have increased the concentration of star power. This time I do not know how long I will have to sleep again." As expected, I did not fight with the fool for the leading position. Did I already set the tone for failure? But the whirlpool sword spirit tempering technique was different. It used sword auras to temper the martial spirit, and that was the reason why it was publicly acknowledged as the most cruel tempering technique. We are discussing our next plan. Xiao's face revealed a look of approval. These lupus martial artists were truly hardworking. The bones in Tang Tian's body seemed to be enduring the immense pressure, releasing a sound that made people's teeth ache. For example, the lady from Sagittarius constellation would definitely snort at him. The eccentric and unpredictable crazy lady would find someone to get rid of him. He was slightly worried. Liang Feng's expression froze. He stammered, "Did I tell you about the desolate bare bone? 100 billion. The bright sword aura was like a high-speed grinding wheel, frantically grinding against the spirit flame. He had prepared a few simple tests and then split the lupus martial artists into a few types, and then formulated different training plans for them. After returning from Three Spirit City, Tang Tian did not think too much about it, and only told Liang Feng about it, and immersed himself in training as usual. Tang Tian's heavy hands slowly formed a strange sword art. Under his continuous hard work, the star power in his body gradually formed a whirlpool. As time passed, the whirlpool continued to grow stronger. The speed of its rotation increased, becoming more and more turbulent. Saying that, Liang Feng's mouth twitched. He resisted the urge to suggest His Majesty to change the name Bear Egg. His hands seemed to be extremely heavy. In just a few centimeters, his entire body was drenched in perspiration. Liang Feng was stunned. Subconsciously, he formed a seal with both hands. A yellow light aura blossomed from his body, and a human tall mountain peak appeared in front of him. So when Liang Feng saw the sword aura whirlpool revolving crazily around Tang Tian, he was dumbstruck. But this fool's luck seems to be pretty good. "Let me first talk about the latest news," Bell said. "Let me first talk about the situation in Heaven's Road, the battle between Leo Constellation and the Honorable Martial Alliance. Other than Orion Constellation, just 2 days ago, Cetus Constellation, Aquila Constellation and Canis Minor Constellation of the 10 Equatorial Palace Halls announced that they had joined the Honorable Martial Alliance camp. The diplomatic methods of the Honorable Martial Alliance are outstanding, and as for Orion Constellation, it has now become a gigantic meat grinder. Both sides are continuously sending in high-level martial artists, and it is said that the battle inside is extremely intense. Overall, Leo Constellation is starting to be at a disadvantage. Of course, the battle has not reached its climax and the future situation is not clear. Some people will definitely want to ask, what is the essence of spirit? Here I am sorry to tell everyone, until now no Grandmaster has been able to answer this question. So towards this power the ancient sages used the word spirit to define it. The ancient sages quickly realized, when the martial spirit is strong to a certain degree, it is even stronger than true power. Because it can imitate all kinds of objects, and that is what we call the spirit domain. Not sleeping or resting, this kind of crazy training was something Xiao had seen before. In every academy, there would always be a few such training maniacs, and it was not surprising. Big Dipper? Tang Tian was surprised and said proudly, "It is obviously the Ursa Major Star's umbrella. Little Bones already told me." But recently, everyone was discussing about His Majesty Bear King. Liang Feng muttered to himself. Even if it was against a saint, it would not be easily destroyed. Liang Feng's martial techniques were heavy on offense and light on defense, but after reaching the saint level he still managed to come up with a few specialized defensive techniques. And this unmoving peak was one of them. Using the spirit domain to imitate the mountain peak structure, he had referenced the structure of many shield auras. Inside the small unmoving peak, there were 9 layers of defense, and this was his masterpiece. After a while, the middle-aged scholar laughed bitterly. I hope he is smashed to pieces. Whirlpool Sword's spirit tempering technique. Ursa Major Star's umbrella. When everyone had dispersed and only Tang Tian and a few others were left, Liang Feng then opened his mouth. Teaching students was definitely not an easy task. Different students had different specialties, and a good teacher would teach according to their aptitude. In the private room upstairs sat 3 ordinary dressed martial artists. The discussion downstairs could be clearly heard by the 3 of them through the roof. Liang Feng never thought that Tang Tian would be so rash. Damn it! Although the surrounding star power flow was very slow, but the quantity was too astonishing, converging in Tang Tian's body, it was extremely terrifying. Tang Tian's tyrannical body could withstand it, but it did not mean that his spirit flame could. You only need to place the desolate bear bone in the center of the bear egg. But inside the desolate bear bone, there is a high possibility that the Ursa Major constellation's secret technique, Big Dipper. No. The middle-aged scholar shook his head. It's 7 m thick from the mad sword Saint Lin Chaoguang 700 years ago. For a cunning person like me, every time I am forced by this fool to be the good guy for free, this world really makes people feel helpless. Tang Tian's sudden appearance of sword techniques made him suspicious. But that was Tang Tian's secret, and he did not have the intention to probe. And Tang Tian daring to use the Whirlpool Sword's spirit tempering technique made him deeply shocked. The bald man waved his hand. A 60 m Whirlpool Sword. Everyone save it. Anyway, my spirit domain will definitely not be able to block it. Tang Tian opened his palm. But to raise the standard of the lupus martial artists by 2 levels, he had absolute confidence. He was not arrogant at all. Anyone with a bit of teaching experience would be able to do it. The lupus people were too persevering and hardworking. What he could do was to shorten the time needed. In the process of governing, Long Shou Jing brought a few gold-ranked martial artists and barged into a few dishonest families, and directly brought their patriarchs back, causing the other families to keep quiet out of fear. Tang Tian then understood. Liang Feng could not believe his own eyes. His immovable peak was actually broken so easily. Tang Tian's hands trembled and slowly rose up. Ah Xiu was enlightened. That means to say this rise is temporary? Even Yen Yonglai, who was famed for his bravery in the past, did not dare to use the Whirlpool Sword's spirit tempering technique. Listen. What a brave whale. All of you raise your spirits. Your Majesty Lupus King is so brave. He is so angry. What reason do you all have to be lazy? Liang Feng stared blankly at Tang Tian, who was surrounded by countless of sword auras. Every ray of sword aura was dazzling, surrounding Tang Tian's body, revolving quickly. But when Tang Tian saw Uncle Bing in the hall, he jumped in fright. Hey uncle, why are you here? But the pain this time was 100 times more intense than any other time. Adrian himself felt suffocated. It was as if he could see a wave of wolves engulfing Heaven's Road. Yes, so tell Zhong Guang to hurry up. If you miss this time, it will be hard to meet again. Adrian instructed. A few old fellows secretly heard that the boss had earned a huge sum of money. No one knew how much it was, but it was rumored to be at least 100 billion. Liang Feng's senses were extremely sharp. He could feel, every time Tang Tian's hands rose an inch, the surrounding star power would have an obvious change. Impossible. The lady was dressed in white. Her appearance was beautiful, but her expression was cold. No matter how much we look down on him, he is still the new Bear King. If he had received the news, how could he not do anything? Furthermore, he has a martial artist like Liang Feng by his side. Ruthless enough. Bell sat down very straightforwardly. Liang Feng was giving a lecture. The seats in front of him were filled with people, with Tang Tian and the rest sitting at the front. Everyone's expressions were focused. Liang Feng was a true saint, and it was hard for them to even meet him on normal days. If not for Her Majesty wanting to listen to the lecture, if not for Her Majesty's generosity, how would they have the chance to listen to a saint's lecture? The martial artists that remained were mostly lifestyle martial artists, and on how to make use of them the Fairy Commerce Alliance had rich experience. In the tea house, a few idlers drank tea and discussed. Just based on his courage and determination, his future was limitless. Ursa Major Constellation's future was definitely bright. Everyone became even more engrossed. They had some understanding of such things, but no one had ever been able to explain it in simple terms like Liang Feng. Feeling the killing intent behind him, Tang Tian laughed and turned and sat down again. Everyone speak, I'll listen. But in front of the sword auras it was like paper. Bear egg. Tang Tian's attention landed on the desolate bare bone in his body. The desolate bare bone seemed to have sensed danger, and with a swoosh, it flew out from Tang Tian's body and floated above Tang Tian's head. That's right. Tang Tian nodded his head. I have already started training. That's right. The middle-aged scholar sitting opposite the lady spoke. Then it can only be used by him. How many years has it been since anyone used the Whirlpool Sword spirit tempering technique? This person is ruthless. If we do not get rid of him this time, he will definitely become our enemy in the future. Teske, how many days has it been? An old man sipped his tea and asked without raising his head. Bear eggs wails could be heard from far away. The matter of stupid master using the Whirlpool Sword spirit tempering technique had spread like wildfire in Bear Head City, and became everyone's favorite topic of discussion. The wails could be heard, but Ashio's face did not have a trace of ridicule but rather admiration. At that moment he was truly convinced to lose to such a person was not shameful at all. Bang. It was like, hey, can you handle it? How do we gain enlightenment on these laws, martial techniques? That is also why I said that the martial techniques that everyone trains in have the ultimate goal of the spirit domain. The martial techniques that we train in, other than fighting, the most important thing is to help everyone gain enlightenment on the corresponding laws. The higher the grade of inheritance, the more traces of laws it will contain, its might will naturally be stronger, and will also be more beneficial for you to gain enlightenment on the laws itself. Tang Tian seemed to have changed into a different person. It was obviously the same face, but Liang Feng felt that it was a different person. Tang Tian pursed his lips tightly. Even though he was using all the strength in his body, Tang Tian's face was not sinister at all, but instead revealed an indescribable cold indifference. Liang Feng's face changed. Not good, it's a sword aura. Everyone around nodded their heads. Yes. If anything happened to Tang Tian, then. Tang Tian's spirit flame was coincidentally in the center of the whirlpool. Following the increasing speed of the whirlpool became bigger and bigger. The star power around the spirit flame was being pushed outwards, as though it was in the eye of a storm. The bald man sneered. Stop dreaming, this fellow's wails are so loud that I can hear them from 20 li away. All of the lupus martial artists sat on the ropes and trained with all their might. Lu Zhongguang's roars could be heard from time to time. In that moment Tang Tian's mind went blank. Thinking about it, it was right. As long as Uncle Bing entered the spirit region, he could easily return to Three Spirit City from anywhere. Liang Feng heard Tang Tian say that Cetus constellation might make a move, so he did not dare to be careless, and simply stood guard by Tang Tian's side. At that moment he felt something strange and suddenly opened his eyes, his gaze landing on Tang Tian's body, and his face changed. Of course, the most crucial thing was that the tight budget had suddenly loosened a lot. The violent spear maniac, the inheritance in his hands, also had a huge background, the inheritance of the Silver Frost Mount. Thinking about it made Liang Feng feel a pain in the ass. Such a top-grade inheritance, I do not even have it. Tang Tian laughed. Don't worry, recently my strength has improved a lot. Let them witness the power of this godlike young lad. Heart-wrenching wails immediately resonated throughout the entire bear egg. To train so crazily, even the most ordinary of talents would be able to possess extraordinary strength. And when this 1 million matures, how terrifying would that be? The lady in white revealed a look of shock. 60 m thick. How can the Whirlpool Sword spirit tempering technique be so thick? If I remember correctly, the thickest Whirlpool Sword spirit that has ever appeared was only 15 m thick. Liang Feng's words flowed like a river. After speaking for 2 hours, only then did everyone disperse reluctantly. For the first time, Liang Feng's heart was filled with admiration. Previously, when he relied on Tang Tian, it was more out of consideration for the situation, but at that moment, the admiration he had for Tang Tian was the most instinctive admiration of a martial artist. Ashio was startled but nodded his head. Teacher is right. Look, if he can really endure it, then the position of Bear King, it is not impossible for him to take it. Countless sharp energy forces shot out in all directions with a loud rumble. Tang Tian was in so much pain that his face twitched. he could feel his consciousness quickly blurring. He knew he was about to fall into a deep slumber. You woke me up and now you want me to fall into a deep slumber, fool. You think I will let you off so easily? Belle fiercely swallowed a mouthful of water, wiped her mouth and said, You don't have to remind them. Adrian glanced at the densely packed lupus martial artists and said, They are already giving it their all. In truth, although these lupus martial artists' talent is average, but they are hardworking, I have never seen them in so many constellations. But Liang Feng's attention was quickly attracted by Tang Tian's raised hands. The middle-aged scholar's face was filled with helplessness. The sword auras around him now are at least 60 m thick. The small mountain peak just now suddenly crumbled. In her eyes he was just a small character. Truly a group of terrifying fellows. Tang Tian's screams resonated throughout the entire bear egg. For this point we have to talk about the spirit domain. The essence of the spirit domain is the mimicry of the martial spirit. How is it possible to gain enlightenment on the spirit domain? Very simple. When you have an extremely deep understanding of a certain law and your martial spirit is strong and pure enough, you can form a spirit domain that belongs to you. Some people use the sword to enter the Tao, some people observe the heavens to enter the Tao, some people use chess to enter the Tao. They are all different, but there is one thing that is necessary, and that is to have a deep understanding of a certain law. Just like how there are no two identical leaves in the world, there are no identical spirit domains in the world. There are trillions of laws in the world, and the same law, different people have different understandings of it. Tang Tian's consciousness slowly recovered, the unparalleled pain from the deepest part of his spirit flame to every corner of his body. Tang Tian sat in the center of the bear egg, his eyes closed, his consciousness completely immersed in the star power in his body. In his inner vision, the Ursa Major constellation's star power was clearly displayed in front of him. The surging star power converged from all directions towards Tang Tian, flushing his spirit flame. Countless dazzling light auras converged from all directions like dazzling stars. Everyone only had a rope that was half a meter long to stand on. With such a harsh and extreme training environment, if it was any other place, the students would have long since complained. They would request for a soundproof quiet room or a private room that they could pay for but had better conditions. But all the lupus martial artists did not complain. Every single one of them sat on the rope for an entire day. When they were hungry, they would gnaw on their rations. When they were thirsty, they would bring along a water bottle. Tens of thousands of sword lights revolved around. You don't say, although the stupid master is stupid, but his ruthlessness is still strong. The Whirlpool Sword Spirit Tempering Technique. How many years has it not produced such a ruthless person? Hey, as the leader, this is too irresponsible. Bing's face was gloomy, his killing intent soaring as he squeezed out a sentence. But it is very far. Bing's next sentence destroyed Tang Tian's thoughts. He calmed himself down and continued to explain. Meetings and whatnot are the most frustrating. Tang Tian's spirit flame lit up with dazzling sparks. Ah. The sixth day. Another old man gestured. A hole suddenly appeared on Tang Tian's clothes as though it was cut by a sharp chi. Liang Feng did not dare to imagine and only felt his hands and feet turning cold. Both of Tang Tian's hands were finally raised to his chest. That indifferent face finally had a slight change in expression. According to what Liang Feng said in the morning, what he needed to do now was to temper his martial spirit. This was the big killing technique that Liang Feng had prepared for a long time. As a newcomer, to leave a deep impression in the boss' heart, he needed a big killing technique. Old Miao, what do you mean by that? Unless, King Yonglai, you have forgotten about it so quickly? Seeing that, Tang Tian tactfully left. Liang Feng then saw an extremely strange scene. The estimated budget to attack Fornax constellation was in the hundreds of billions. Bel Paipa and Tang Chou are all here. Tang Tian then noticed and stood up to escape. You guys are having a meeting? Aha, then I shall not disturb you guys. Adrian glanced at him, then retracted his gaze. Let's mind our own business. 40% star power concentration. This is already the standard of an ecliptic palace constellation in a month's time. If we do not have any results, then it will be embarrassing. This formless pressure caused his heart to tremble uncontrollably. 3 martial artists, 2 males and 1 female, each occupied a corner. Normal. Adrian nodded his head. He was experienced and could see the crux of the matter. Previously, when the star power was gathered, it was the effect of the desolate bare bone, but the suction force was not strong, the whirlpool produced by the whirlpool sword, has a more obvious effect on the star power gathering. The entire Ursa Major constellation's star power is gathering here, and the star power concentration outside will decrease by a certain degree. 1 month. Liang Feng regretted the theory that he said today. The whirlpool sword spirit tempering technique is publicly recognized as the cruelest tempering technique. Compared to the pain your Majesty Wolf King had to endure, the pain you guys are enduring now is just an itch. Wrong. It can't even compare to an itch. Feel ashamed, your blood is boiling, train only, train with all your might, crazily train, disregard everything to train, only then can you be worthy of your Wolf King. Liang Feng almost thought that his eyes were playing tricks on him. That crazy guy, how could he have such a high-class smile on his face? That guy has always been smiling foolishly. Using true power to temper the martial spirit, the process was extremely painful. But after the true power had been refined through the meridians, it was much gentler and the damage was much smaller. But the sword auras were extremely extreme, brimming with destructive energy. Using it to temper the martial spirit, the pain could be said to be torture. And the whirlpool sword spirit tempering law went one step further, using countless of sword auras to form a whirlpool like a grinding wheel, to quickly temper the martial spirit. Such pain was something that very few people could endure. Next, let's talk about us. Ursa Major constellation's situation is not good. Previously, there were many constellations that were restless against us. But with the migration of the Lupus race, many powerhouses retreated. But there are still a few constellations that are more hostile towards us. The most worrisome one is Cetus constellation. With the enmity between us and the Honorable Martial Alliance, if Cetus constellation were to swallow us, the Honorable Martial Alliance would be happy to see it happen. If Cetus constellation can swallow us, then their support to Orion constellation will be greatly strengthened. And Cetus constellation itself is coveting Ursa Major constellation. The awakening of Big Dipper and the legendary ancient inheritance of Ursa Major constellation are all things that they desire to obtain. Hard to say. Adrian's gaze also landed on Tang Tian, but at the very least it will take at least a month. The sword auras shot into the mountain peak like raindrops. Liang Feng, who had just recovered from the shock, suddenly had a change of expression. He suddenly retreated, his figure flashed, and he retreated 60 m away. The three of them became quiet again. No one knew what to say. Liang Feng spoke very seriously. To explain to Tang Tian and the rest, he had to be 120% focused. In the future he wanted to earn a living under Tang Tian. It was such a good opportunity. If he did not grab it, he would be too stupid. Every broken flow lit up with a faint light aura, like countless of thin swords, converging into a whirlpool. When your true power continues to accumulate, the higher it goes, the harder it gets. That is because there is a limit to how much star power a human body can hold. If we say we set the maximum amount of true power a human can hold at 100, then you will realize when your true power reaches 80, it will be extremely difficult to increase it further. The ancient sages had discovered this problem a long time ago. When the true power reaches 80, to increase it further, the efficiency is extremely low, and the increase in strength is also relatively limited. At this time, the ancient sages placed their attention on the martial spirit. Psi. Draco constellation has a star door which leads to the spirit region. Bing raised his eyebrows. Liang Feng's face was pale white. He was experienced and knowledgeable. The strange scene in front of him made him think of an extremely extreme training method that he had seen in the ancient records. Tang Tian's spirit flame was in the midst of the surging star power, flickering in a precarious situation. After a moment, the light aura dissipated and a pocket-sized transparent umbrella floated in Tang Tian's palm. The outline of the umbrella was not clear, and was rather blurry, as though it would be blown away by the wind if it was slightly stronger. The umbrella's surface would occasionally have light spots become brighter, like the stars in the night sky. Tang Chou said solemnly, "If Cetus constellation plans to take action against us, then their actions will be very fast. Now is our weakest time. Ursa Major constellation has just changed masters, and we have not stabilized ourselves. And Master's army is far away in Draco constellation at this time. It is the best time to take action." The new Bear Head city was flourishing day by day. Its position was only about 50 li away from Bear Egg. The majority of the people living here were the original residents of Bear Head city, and the security here was very good. Small Bones. Chapter 448. Lu Zhongguang's voice made Tang Tian want to kick him in the face. Listen to my asshole, brave my asshole, I don't want to, you should be brave. Ah ah. Ah. Tang Tian screamed, truly brimming with the beauty of art. Dong 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 dong. Ling Su righteously said, brother will not snatch what he likes. He will definitely feel great. Ling Su said with certainty and seriousness, his words filled with envy. The rhythm of both parties was in sync. Uncle Bing had a cigarette in his mouth, standing not far from Tang Tian's whirlpool swords. He puffed out a smoke ring and said, truly a heavenly sound. Seeing the worried expressions on their faces. As expected, happiness comes from comparison. If it was said that previously, everyone still had other thoughts, but now, everyone was convinced. The two of them turned, only to see Crane quietly using his sword, writing a praise on the floor. This was the cruelest part of the whirlpool sword's spirit tempering technique. Not only would it not cause the martial artist to faint, but instead, following the sword aura's continuous tempering of the martial spirit, the martial artist's six senses would become even more sensitive, and the pain that originated from the soul would be extremely profound. But he was not randomly giving out ideas. The reason why Draco Constellation was able to maintain its prestige for the past few years was because of their outstanding internal affairs. Unlike Andromeda Constellation's business, Ursa Major Constellation's battle prowess, Draco Constellation actually did not have many resources to be able to have their current position, was because they had a group of core internal affairs talents and a perfect grooming system. What a pity. Uncle Bing stood up and flicked the cigarette holder in his hand. If we can sell tickets, we can earn a huge sum. Uncle Bing squatted down, took out the cigarette holder from his mouth and wrote on the floor, you are full of twists and turns, you are loud and clear, you are endless, you are full of emotions, who are you? You are electricity, you are light. You are the only crazy person. Long Shou quietly listened to the sounds coming from the bear egg, and could not help but sigh. It had been a long time since he had heard such a pure and explosive drumming performance. Although there were still flaws in his technique, it was as wild as a wild beast, as smooth as a storm, and as incisive as a heart-wrenching scream. Could be said to be perfect. Not necessarily no chance, how many chances? Although Long Shou Jing's tone was calm, it could not help but reveal a wave of power. The few of them saw the fatigue on Long Shou Jing's face and hurriedly retreated. Crane's figure was natural and unrestrained, elegant and out of this world. A sky dragon martial artist said in a deep voice, through the sensing distance, we can roughly determine their strength. They should be sages. Although they had disguised their appearances, their attire still left some clues. After some investigation, we roughly found the target. The three of them are saints of Cetus Constellation. The bald man is Fist Saint Do Yong, the middle-aged scholar is Sword Saint Hiu Ming, and the lady in white is Zither Saint by CC. Following such a boss, the future was bright. A complete set of drums. I understand what you're thinking. But why hadn't they made a move after so many days? It is very simple, the whirlpool swords are too thick, they could not find a chance to attack. Long Shou Jing said gently, this is Ursa Major Constellation, they have the home advantage and wield the saint treasure. Once His Majesty completes his tempering, how can they have a chance? And the worst thing was, even the sounds around him could pass through the thick whirlpool swords and bore into his ears. There was completely no way out. The Sky Dragon martial artists beside him all nodded their heads. Prince Shou Jing's artistic cultivation was extremely profound. To be able to receive such an evaluation, it meant that the other party's attainments were extremely profound. Ah! All of them anxiously wanted to gain merits and take the chance to solidify Draco Constellation's position. Long Shou Jing could understand their sense of danger. Dong dong dong. Dong dong dong. Yaya with his short legs and short hands jumped up, waving the wooden club in his hands. Yaya came out from nowhere, sneakily running to a place not far from Tang Tian. Hearing Tang Tian's miserable howls, he immediately became excited, his small hands pounding his chest like raindrops, raising his head and shouting, ah ah. His Majesty Bear King's side was truly filled with hidden dragons and crouching tigers. To actually have a music expert, most probably this expert wanted to use this method to alleviate His Majesty's pain. After the few of them left, the room regained its peace. Long Shou Jing's face revealed a bitter smile. To be an idle person, he never thought that it would be so difficult. This world truly made people feel despair. But his voice, was completely drowned out by Tang Tian's miserable screams, and could not be heard at all. No. The Sky Dragon martial artist hesitated for a moment. If Saint Liang Feng can make a move, we might have a chance. What a brave cry. Yaya immediately became high, entering an unprecedented state of excitement. It was like an extremely nimble little flea jumping around the drumsticks. The drumsticks were like rain. The frequency was extremely fast. Every drumstick used all of its strength and puffed up its cheeks. Ling Su scratched his head. Everyone was writing except for him. It seemed to be of a lower class. He awkwardly raised his silver spear and scribbled, "A true brave warrior dares to face the miserable cries of life." The few of them were overjoyed as expected of His Majesty. His eyes were sharp. Long Shoujing sighed. He was naturally indifferent and did not like to fight for power. If not for him not wanting to see Sky Dragon die, why would he take on such matters? He had originally planned to enter Ursa Major constellation and be a good puppet, since puppets were no different to him. Lu Zhongguang was stunned, Ashio was stunned, Adrian was stunned, all of the lupus martial artists were stunned by the scene in front of them. Who knew Tang Tian did not give him the chance to retreat, and directly threw him a bunch of things. Currently, all of Draco Constellation's eyes were on him. He had become the representative of Draco Constellation, and his position was directly related to Draco Constellation's position in the system. And in the core region of the Bear Egg, there was enough space for Draco Constellation. To the various families of Draco Constellation, it was an irresistible temptation. Yaya stopped and then disappeared again. After a while, it brought the bronze sheep, tortoise and squirrel over sneakily. The bronze sheep had 4 different sized drums on its body, the tortoise had a treading hoe on its back, and the adorable little squirrel had 2 hands, one holding a hoe. What made them even happier was that upon seeing His Majesty, Prince Shoujing was placed in an important position. To the martial artists of Draco Constellation, this made their suspicions disappear. 40% star power concentration. As expected of a son of an aristocratic family. Uncle Bing exclaimed in admiration, "For such a memorable occasion, we truly have to leave something behind." The various families had already sent their most talented and outstanding young men to Ursa Major constellation, and amongst them were their sons and nephews. The entire Draco constellation had already started to accept the result of being merged into Ursa Major constellation. For Prince Shoujing to be able to enter Tang Tian's inner circle of authority was extremely important to them. It was because of this stimulation that they worked extremely hard. Towards Tang Tian, everyone's initial conflict had gradually turned into admiration. To have the courage to try out the Whirlpool Sword spirit tempering technique, such a person was a true warrior. Furthermore, as the king of a constellation, to be so resolute, decisive and fierce, it made people revere him. Long Shoujing shook his head. "Then you will have to pay the price of more than 6 people. How many gold rank martial artists of Draco constellation are left?" "Only 6. What about the half-step gold rank martial artists?" "There are only 30 of them, and that is already the last strength of Draco constellation." After a while, Long Shoujing did not have any reply. The few heavenly dragon martial artists looked at each other. They had spent a lot of effort to investigate the origins of these 3 people with the intention of making a contribution. But now His Highness only said, "I got it," and did not continue. Immediately the few of them were at a loss. Yaya took out 2 leg bones from nowhere and had an eager expression on its face. Music could make people relax. "Your Highness, relax, we will definitely send the best internal affairs talents of Draco constellation over." "But Cetus constellation," Long Shoujing muttered as if deep in thought. "I got it." That was not the most excessive. Coming to listen to Tang Tian's howls every day became the best way for everyone to relax. "Your Highness, these people definitely want to harm His Majesty. If we let them go, I'm afraid." One of the Draco martial artists tried to persuade him. Long Shoujing could not help but sigh in his heart. Since he had already done it, then he had to do it better. He muttered for a while. Ursa Major constellation's internal affairs talents are preserved very well, but they are currently in conflict with His Majesty, and Lupus constellation itself does not have many talents, and Andromeda constellation has yet to recover. To us, this is a rare opportunity. Let the various families send some experts over. Don't use mediocre people to make up the numbers. If you regret it in the future, don't blame others. "Have you checked it out?" Long Shoujing asked gently. As long as these people stood firm, then Draco Constellation's future position would naturally not be low. 40%. The Draco martial artist stammered. Long Shou-Jing's gaze landed on them and asked directly, "You guys have the confidence to win against them?" Tang Tian was humiliated to realize that he actually could not help but follow Yaya's rhythm and howl. "Do you want to feel good?" Bing glanced at Ling Su. Everyone was solemn. Although they were in and out of the palace and were influenced by what they saw and heard, and were proficient in crafty plots and schemes, but they were still martial artists. What martial artists admired the most were always strong martial artists. Everyone kept quiet. "You guys are just anxious." Long Shou-Jing comforted them and said gently, "In this period of time the other party will not have the chance. What you guys need to do is to work hard to raise your standards. Liang Feng's position as a saint does not represent Draco Constellation. If you guys want to gain something, there are only two ways. One is to become a saint, the other is to seriously groom the new generation. This war will definitely not end in a few years." Scope. Crane took the lead and flew along the rope. He had a lot of things on his hands and was already extremely busy, but after hearing Tang Tian's howl for half an hour, his life was once again filled with hope. He heard some rustling sounds beside his ear. What would the future Ursa Major constellation be like? Long Shou-Jing suddenly had some expectations. Tang Tian could clearly feel every bit of pain. Tang Tian finally had a deep understanding of the darkness of human nature. "This group of assholes, wait till I get out, you guys better watch out." Tang Tian howled and cursed in his heart. Chapter 449. Sima Xiao also noticed the quickly approaching scouts. His somewhat childish face was surprisingly calm, like a deep lake, calm without any ripples. Tang Tian's whirlpool sword spirit tempering technique shocked Bing. Scorpio constellation was quiet and continued to be quiet. How many years will that take? Scorpio constellation's star power concentration suddenly increased by a large margin. Sai Lei's face was filled with joy. The dragon crystal spirit core ores was something she wanted. It was an extremely rare material, and was a specialty of Draco constellation. When Sai Lei was researching on the various materials, he had a surprising discovery in a dragon crystal spirit core ores, which could seal spirit generals. He quickly found the important part of the plan, and at that time he thought there must be something special inside to make Master willing to take such a huge risk. On top of a sparkling and translucent crystal, floated a finger-sized spirit general. Once the war dragged on, everyone would be competing on their ability to produce blood. Scorpio constellation experienced a short period of shock, and immediately went into an unprecedented celebration. Sima Zhao's gaze looked into the distance, the fanaticism in his eyes slowly becoming stronger, the soft and messy chestnut-colored hair that resembled a bird's nest, the childishness on his face was swept away, and faintly revealed a tyrannical aura. The entire Heaven's Road was holding their breaths, waiting for the Scorpio King to appear. This drop of spirit-devouring embryo is the latest technology. It is formed by extracting the fiercest spirit essence from spirit cards. Its ability to devour spirits is 1,000 times stronger than any other alliance general. Master, do not look down on this drop of spirit-devouring embryo. It cost 3 unique spirit cards, 10 purple gold grade cards and even more gold grade cards. After a while he awoke from his dream and immediately welcomed him, Master Yi. Bear Egg was currently filled with people. "How is it?" Sima Xiao asked. A skinny camel was still bigger than a horse. The accumulation of tens of thousands of years was not ordinary. Senior brother, don't feel inferior, not everyone is crazy." Sima Xiao consoled. Hearing that, Sima Xiao cut his finger and squeezed out a drop of blood, and dripped it into the crystal test tube. "Thank you, Master Kuei." Sima Xiao bowed. Scorpio Magatama. Derong was startled. After a while his face changed, his voice trembled. The 4 words had a huge impact on him, causing his mind to go blank. Sima Xiao spoke to the ordinary-looking old man beside him. However, they soon encountered a problem when they were refining the Soul Core Dragon Crystal. They couldn't refine a complete Soul Core Dragon Crystal. The more complete the Dragon Crystal Spirit Core Ore was, the stronger the spirit generals it could contain. His heart skipped a beat. Derong's actions were the key to the entire plan. He knew how long his junior brother had prepared for this plan. When this fellow was sent to a remote constellation, he had already started to formulate this plan. Population. Just as everyone was discussing about the Ursa Major constellation, an even more shocking and explosive news swept through all the major constellations like a hurricane. In the mechanism laboratory, the lights were completely lit. Everyone was dirty, their eyes bloodshot. There were piles and piles of scrap parts and metal scraps. There was not even a place to stand. Many of the mechanical engineers found a random spot in the corner to take a nap, sleeping soundly. Bing was like a patient hunter, calmly and patiently waiting for his strength to rise. Sima Xiao then asked, "What about the casualties?" "Yes." The scout replied excitedly. With high morale, he turned and disappeared into the distance like a big bird. Sima Xiao said solemnly, "The Scorpio dynasty collapsed due to internal strife. Scorpio King Wang died in the palace. Under the protection of the loyal guards, his wife took Magatama and escaped the palace, fleeing for over 10,000 li, and then Magatama disappeared. Seeing this cave today, I finally understood. All the guards died and transformed into spirits and sealed Magatama. To seal a saint treasure, there must be a saint-level spirit general below. And for it to not disappear after 10,000 years, it requires an extremely dense death aura. This cave is not normal. In the era of the three great armies, this was an important passage to Scorpio constellation, where an extremely intense battle occurred, and it was said that the entire cave was filled with blood. After that, the death aura became too dense, so it was abandoned and sealed. What a strong death aura! Qiu Zhijun could not help but hold on to his sword hilt. The dense death aura that came out from the cave made him feel extremely uncomfortable. "Now you can be at ease." Qiu Zhijun smiled. His heart was extremely happy. "If we win this battle, junior brother will soar into the sky and no one will be able to stop him. Junior brother has spent so much effort on this plan, and victory is the best reward for him." And today they finally refined a complete dragon crystal spirit core ore. Very quickly, new characteristics were discovered. Other than being able to seal spirit generals after refinement, it could also nourish spirit generals, allowing them to become even stronger and purer. Inside the bear egg there was only one topic: special training. His gaze unconsciously landed on his junior brother's face. The shortcoming of all these armies was the realm of true power. Of course, in Bing's eyes, all these armies were cannon fodder, but if they were able to raise their true power by 2 levels, they would be able to become elite cannon fodder. The only reason for Scorpio constellation's decline was because of the disappearance of the Saint treasure. Scorpio constellation's martial techniques were preserved rather well among the many constellations. As long as Scorpio constellation found the Saint treasure, Scorpio constellation would definitely welcome a revival. But he never thought that it would be the Scorpio Magatama. Sima Zhao's soft brown hair was blown by the wind like a bird's nest. The wind on the roof of the carriage was strong, but he did not feel it. Beside him, Qiu Zhijun sat cross-legged. His shoulder-length hair was blown by the wind. His pale white face looked as though he had just recovered from a serious illness. But it was not only the armies that were fighting for their lives. Scorpio constellation was a constellation that established a dynasty, the final winner of the era of the three great armies. Although it had declined for a long time, but unlike Ophiuchus constellation, Scorpio constellation had never fallen from the ecliptic palace constellations. But in the bear egg that had more than 40% star power concentration, as long as one was not too lazy, it was not a big problem. That was also why the 12 ecliptic palaces far surpassed the other constellations. They had denser star power concentration, and could attract more talented martial artists. The merging and devouring of spirit generals required many techniques and knowledge, just like blood meridian specialists, just that the refining spirit specialist was an occupation unique to the clan union. The few strongest alliance generals of the clan union all came from the hands of Master Kuei. Rongda's pupils constricted again. The old man was unfamiliar. He had never seen him before, but the name Master Kuei, he had heard of it before. Master Kuei, the most powerful refining spirit specialist in the clan union. Sima Xiao chuckled and spat out 4 words: Scorpio Magatama. But Rongda knew that Sima Xiao had always planned far ahead, and with such an order he would definitely be prepared. And Master's character was decisive and firm. Once he gave the order, he would definitely not waver. When the 400 tons of dragon crystal spirit core ores were sent to the mechanical research laboratory, the entire mechanical research laboratory was like clockwork, immersing themselves in research day and night. In this period of time, the other constellations were not clear of the actual situation of Ursa Major constellation. Adding Tang Tian's whirlpool sword spirit tempering technique, it caused people to be even more fearful, and instead obtained a rare period of peace. If they did not grab hold of this period of time to raise their strength, then their future days would not be easy. Sima Xiao patted Rongda's broad shoulders and said, "Have you found the place?" Ta Dun's Andromeda army had also quietly arrived at the Bear Egg 4 special training. Placed in the pitiful 1% star power concentration of Lupus constellation, to raise true power by 2 levels, the expenditure and cost was undoubtedly astonishing. Suddenly, someone in the corner shouted, "Success! I did it!" Even Tang Yi's Lupus army was currently undergoing special training inside the Bear Egg. This was a problem that any military general with a bit of standard could see, but no one cared because no one believed that the war would develop to such a stage. The situation was already in chaos, the wind and rain were already wavering, and the future had become even more blurry. Kuei will definitely give it his all. Master Kuei's expression was solemn. He carefully took out a crystal test tube. Inside it was a ball of mist churning. "Master, please drip a drop of blood." Grabbing the sword beside him, he stood up without hesitation. He turned and left. Whirlpool sword spirit tempering technique, as expected of a godlike young man. This discovery caused all the mechanical engineers in the mechanical research laboratory to go completely crazy. Blood vessels covered his entire body, making him look like a human. Yi Zhaogu slowly opened his eyes. His eyes were calm and deep without a trace of hostility. The stubble on his face was extremely dense, his hair was messy, his entire body was mottled with scars, his clothes were tattered, but his entire body revealed a sense of tranquility. When this news came out, it caused an uproar, causing all the other news to pale in comparison, immediately attracting everyone's attention. Until today, when the Scorpio constellation's star power concentration suddenly soared by 7 points. After an unknown period of time, he came back to his senses. The carriage's speed was very fast. 3 days later, they landed in the depths of a mountain. When Rongda received the mission, he was already filled with suspicions. The target of the mission was actually in the depths of Scorpio constellation. If their movements were to be exposed, it would immediately attract Scorpio constellation's intense retaliation. A skinny camel was still bigger than a horse, and the clan union's current strength was still inferior to Scorpio constellation, so Master would immediately be in a passive situation. 3 Spirit City. The Scorpio Magoma was the sacred treasure of the Scorpio constellation. Only Bing, who had been through it all, was secretly making preparations. History was always shockingly similar. Bing looked at the image in front of him and leisurely puffed out a smoke ring and muttered to himself, "Scorpio, old opponent, getting more and more interesting." But Bing did not have any fear towards the 12 ecliptic palaces. The impact of this matter was huge. Even the Honorable Martial Alliance and Leo constellation, who were in the midst of fighting, all chose to stop fighting. Master's target was actually Scorpio constellation. Everyone understood what that meant. There was only one possibility: the birth of the Saint Treasure. A new generation of mechanical spirit weapons was about to be born. Found it. Rongda led the way. After a moment, they arrived at a bottomless hole. The hole was shrouded in mist. Qiu Zhijun said with a bit of self-mockery, "A tempering spirit technique that swordsmen do not dare to use was actually used on a close-quarters combat expert." An intense joy surged in his heart. Qiu Zhijun's face could not help but reveal a rare smile. Once this step was completed, then the entire plan would be half a success. There were not many people in the 12 ecliptic palaces, and with the exorbitant usage of star power, ordinary people were unable to establish a foothold there. Rongda did not make a sound and quietly brought his army into Scorpio constellation. Very quickly he realized the master's preparations were extremely ample. The Starry Door garrison was bribed, and the route they took was obviously meticulously prepared. They were all deep mountains and forests that were rarely visited by humans, without any signs of human habitation, and on the way they avoided the territories of a few strong star spirit beasts, so the entire army was close to their destination. When he pushed open the courtyard door, the martial artists who were waiting respectfully outside upon seeing Yi Zhaogu were stunned for a few seconds. Is this still the killing god Yi Zhaogu? Filled with a tranquil aura, It made Yi Zhaogu feel as though he was a different person. They were like the tip of a pyramid with the constellations below them sending talents upwards. The most outstanding martial artists, the best training environment, how could the 12 ecliptic palaces not be strong? The surrounding 13 strongholds have already been purged, no one was left alive and no one else was alerted. Rongde replied straightforwardly. Tang Tian's whirlpool sword's spirit tempering technique caused the star power concentration in bear eggs to directly break through 40%. Such an opportunity, no one was willing to miss it. Bing carefully analyzed the situation, and boldly transferred all the armies to bear eggs for special training. Good place. Master Kuei stood at the side of the cave and observed, and could not help but exclaim excitedly, the grievance and death aura is so dense, there must be an extremely strong spirit general below. Heaven's road sank into an unprecedented silence. Everyone had forgotten about them for too long, but no one had forgotten that this was a constellation that had once established a dynasty, a constellation that had lost its saint treasure but had not fallen from the 12 ecliptic palaces. It was a dangerous and terrifying constellation. Qiu Zhijun laughed, and just as he was about to close his eyes, suddenly, a few black dots lit up in the distance. The 12 ecliptic palaces walked the path of elites. Once their experts were exhausted, it would be difficult to replenish them. In times of peace, they could still rely on their superior conditions to attract geniuses from other constellations. But in times of war, the flow of people between the various constellations would be strictly controlled, and at that time the 12 ecliptic palaces would face the predicament of not having enough manpower. This was Scorpio constellation's territory. Master Kuei became even more excited, his face flushed red. Good place. Good place. A land of blood battles, saint-level spirit generals, there is no better place than this. Bang! The entire mechanical laboratory exploded. All of the mechanical engineers rushed over from all corners. Only at that moment did he understand Sima Zhao's ambition was much bigger than what he had imagined. Now it had awoken. Rongde said solemnly, 22 people died. The generations of Scorpio martial artists had spent countless of effort to search everywhere, but to no avail. They did not care who became their king. What they cared about was, they did not even have a king. The student army had already been disbanded, and the students once again returned to Sky Martial Wolf Academy. Towards the students he had high hopes, and the battle was to let the students experience a real battle. Although their performance had improved greatly, but in Bing's eyes, they still needed to continue learning. But the students did not return to Lupus Constellation, because Sky Martial Wolf Academy had moved from Lupus Constellation to Bear Egg. Yi Zhaoji's gaze looked over, causing the martial artist to feel his entire body tighten. His heart actually did not have any thoughts of resisting, and could not help but be overwhelmed with shock. He knew how powerful it was and fiercely bit the tip of his tongue. The pain caused him to sober up. Ignoring the blood taste in his mouth, he lowered his head and spoke respectfully. Emergency meeting. The clan elders hope that once Master comes out, you can immediately join the meeting. Master Kuei spoke about his own domain. His expression was solemn and confident. Sima Zhao's face revealed a look of praise. You've worked hard, victory is right in front of us. We cannot relax. Get everyone to raise their spirits after we win. I will hold a celebration for everyone. The scout nimbly landed on the carriage, his expression excited. Master, everything is going smoothly. The current generation of people did not have any concept of the chaotic world, or the true Heaven's Road Great War. But Bing, who had survived the most bitter battles, was very clear on what was the most important. His gaze was as sharp as a sword, and with one look he could tell that it was his own scout. Vengeful spirit seal, no wonder no one could find it. Sima Zhao muttered. The martial artist felt the pressure around him disappear and heaved a sigh of relief. Furthermore, he had stood his ground and pushed for the clan union's spirit general fusion technique, creating an army and a series of other measures, showing that he was a wise leader. Rongde welcomed him. Rongde's weathered face finally had a change. He looked at Sima Zhao in shock. He had always admired Sima Zhao. The master's foresight was profound, his methods were shrewd and ruthless, he was a frank person and was a good person to be loyal to. Sima Zhao quietly controlled the Sima family, quietly obtained the support of the majority of the clan elders, and secretly controlled the clan union. Yi Zhaogu replied, lead the way. But the clan union's composition was complicated. The organization was loose with many families and factions. It had an inherent weakness. Rongda's judgment of Sima Xiao was that he was a tyrant. Of course, Bing had always encouraged Tang Tian's torturous actions. To boost morale, all the martial artists that came to Bear Egg to train would be brought to Tang Tian, and the reason was to find happiness. Oh no, find motivation. Rongda blurted out, "What's inside?" Upon saying it, he immediately regretted it. The operation was extremely secretive. He knew that the master's plan was huge. If the outside world knew about it, it would definitely cause an uproar. For the sake of not leaking out, he did not leave a single person alive in the 13 strongholds. "Master Kue, come and take a look." The battle after that did not have anything out of the ordinary in front of the army. The strongholds were like defenseless, other than the fact that they did not expect the stronghold residents to retaliate so fiercely, resulting in a large number of casualties. The entire process of the battle could be said to be extremely smooth. Upon contact with the mist, the blood droplets started to churn intensely, countless of blood threads surged, and after a while the blood threads once again converged to form a thumb-sized human figure. He turned the test tube upside down, and the blood vessels inside dripped into the mist like a water droplet. This meant that as long as they succeeded, they would be able to create mechanical spirit weapons with growth attributes. He respectfully bowed towards the wooden hut. "I'm leaving." The Saint Treasure of Scorpio constellation, after 10,000 years, had once again established a connection with Scorpio constellation. Out of the few constellations under Tang Tian, Bing placed the most importance on the barren Lupus constellation, because Lupus constellation had an extremely large population. He had been rather free recently. With the collapse of the Scorpio dynasty, the Saint Treasure of Scorpio Magatama also disappeared, causing Scorpio constellation to fall. But no matter how much Scorpio constellation fell, it was still an ecliptic palace constellation. Many people had thought that Scorpio constellation would be like Ophiuchus constellation, and fall from the ecliptic palace to the equator. But Scorpio constellation stubbornly defended itself as an ecliptic palace constellation. Chapter 450. He stopped and watched. The martial artist leading the way did not rush him and waited patiently at the side. The lady was shocked and angry at the same time, and was about to pounce towards Bing. The beautiful woman suddenly stopped. She was so angry that her entire body was trembling, but she knew that if she continued to struggle, her master would suffer even more humiliation. She allowed Duan Mu to tie her up. Her gaze was filled with hatred as she gritted her teeth and said, "You will regret this. Then these two can be exchanged for quite a lot of ransom money." "Sai Lei, how dare you?" The middle-aged man was both shocked and angry. Bing calmly gave the middle-aged man a few slaps. The middle-aged man's dignified face swelled up like a pig's head. The middle-aged man was so angry that his entire body was trembling. He had never experienced such humiliation before. Hearing that the mechanical spirit weapons were created by a mechanical grandmaster called Sai Lei, and that Sai Lei was a lady, Hua Qinyun's heart was filled with curiosity and anticipation. Oh, it was not a mechanical weapon, it was a mechanical spirit weapon. Bing laughed. "No worries, I know what I'm doing." Hua Qinyun looked around and secretly nodded his head. The scale of 3 spirit cities' base far exceeded his imagination. His gaze fell on the training field. "You are our master engineer. How many years has it been since we last had a master engineer? Hey, we're counting on you to make a lot of money for us. You actually dared to come in front of me and try to poach me, hee hee." Bing's last kug was filled with killing intent. He walked in front of the two of them and blew smoke in their faces. "Those who dared to do that in the past were all beaten up by me until they cried for their mothers. It was a pity that Crazy Tang was not here. Oh, what would he do? Oh, he will definitely hang you up. This uncultured guy likes this kind of thing the most. Not good, not good. I have to train him to pursue higher things." But Bing flicked the cigarette ash and asked Sai Lei, "Do you want to do it personally?" Sai Lei looked at Bing. "Do you know who they are?" Sai Lei's tone was bone-chilling. "Make it clear whose elder you are. When I was 12, the year after my mother passed away, you expelled me from the family. I was penniless. If I hadn't met my teacher, I would have starved to death on the streets. What? Now you're my elder?" Who? A palm pierced through the lingering smoke and grabbed the middle-aged man. Sai Lei was actually a member of the Ivan family. Bing said leisurely to the middle-aged man, "Your subordinates do not pity you at all." Suddenly, he noticed a man and woman hanging at the center of the training ground, and he couldn't help but ask in surprise, "That's right." Duanmu hurriedly dragged the two of them and ran out. "I'm serious," Sai Lei said solemnly. "The Yifan family's power is much stronger than you think. They have a deep foundation in the spirit region." Duanmu's figure flashed and blocked in front of the lady. Her aura suddenly dispersed and the temperature in the room plummeted. A cold smile appeared on Sai Lei's face. "It's definitely not a problem to exchange it for 1 billion or 800 million. Sai Lei sat down. "We have completely offended the Yifan family. Do you know the nickname of the Yifan family in the Taurus constellation? The gangster family has always been unscrupulous in their revenge. A pig-like subordinate will drag down the master." Bing patted the middle-aged man's swollen face, his face full of sincerity. Bing laughed. "Even bigger than the Honorable Martial Alliance? The Ivan family won't let you off." The woman screamed. "Silence." The room sank into silence. "Ah, little Sai Lei, in terms of gangsters, not many people can compare to us." Bing laughed out loud. Bing frivolously puffed out a smoke ring and winked at Sai Lei. "He's a tyrant." Sai Lei's face turned gloomy. "What are you doing here?" Hua Qinyun suddenly felt that the matter was not that simple. Yifan family. If he did not give her a few slaps today. The martial artist looked at the two people who were tied up, his gaze filled with unkindness. The two were tied up tightly, their faces red and swollen as they stood in the corner. As expected of a mechanical spirit weapon, Hua Qinyun quickly came to a conclusion. This brand new mechanical weapon was much stronger than the traditional mechanical weapons. The middle-aged man was enraged. "You dare." Someone came to find them. The middle-aged man's expression froze. Sai Lei sneered. "When I was 12 years old and was chased out of the family, I had already drawn the line with you. We don't welcome you here, you can scram now." "This way please." The martial artist leading the way said politely. "Of course we have to take care of our little friend's feelings. Although we don't know about the conflict between you guys, but it is obvious that we are helping her." Bing laughed. "She is our mechanical grandmaster. To let her vent her anger, her mood will be good and her efficiency will be off the charts. Then we can earn money." "Brother, it's not easy to earn money these days." Sai Lei was startled, then laughed. "That's not true." Duanmu shuddered. The middle-aged man's face darkened. The beautiful lady behind him could not help but scold. "Impudent. A slut who was chased out of the family dares to spout such nonsense." The haze on her face dissipated. That's right, no one cared about the Honorable Martial Alliance, so why would they care about that despicable family? The martial artist leading the way glanced at them and snorted. "I heard that they are from the Yifan family and said that they are Miss Sai Lei's elders." "Humph, Miss Sai Lei is truly pitiful. She was chased out of the family at 12 years old, and almost starved to death. Now that Mrs. Rich, these dogs hit things are shamelessly running over." "Xiao Lei." The middle-aged man smiled and placed the teacup in his hand down. "Why? You don't recognize second uncle anymore?" Sai Lei's anger gradually subsided. Noticing that Bing was staring at her weirdly for a long time, thinking about the poker face's loyal performance just now, she said unhappily, "Say what you want to say." "Hang it up, Sai Lei, your taste is getting closer to Crazy Tang as expected. This fellow is here to pull down everyone's taste." Bing touched his chin and teased. The middle-aged man was about 40 years old, his clothes were exquisite, he had an extraordinary bearing, minding his own business and drinking tea without a hint of uneasiness. The beautiful lady beside him was not to be underestimated. "Thank you for your concern." Bing bit on his cigarette and pretended to return the courtesy. Bing immediately lost interest and said lazily, "Only so little, seems like these two people's positions are not that high. But no matter how small a mosquito is, it's still meat, so I'll just have to put up with it." "Hang them up," Sai Lei said fiercely. The middle-aged man's face turned green and red. After being humiliated again, he finally could not help but shout. "Sai Lei, the blood flowing in your body is ultimately the Yifan family's blood. It's fine if you don't think of giving birth, but to actually treat your elders like this sounds powerful." Bing's face was shocked. Sai Lei rushed in and roared, "Poker face, if you don't give me an explanation today, you're dead." Without thinking, Duanmu's figure flashed and appeared beside the lady like a ghost. Their power is huge. Sai Lei bit her lips, feeling complicated. She knew that Bing was helping her vent her anger. "But, sire, why are you humiliating me like this? What is your intention?" Why don't you say it? The middle-aged man said. Sire, isn't this too rash? The middle-aged man said, although Sai Lei has some achievements in mechanical techniques, but the Han family's strength is ultimately not something a small mechanical engineer can compare to. If Sire is willing to hand Sai Lei over to the Han family will definitely give you a satisfactory reward. The beautiful lady's face revealed an arrogant look. The middle-aged man was much calmer, but he could not help but straighten his back. Bing noticed that the beautiful lady behind the middle-aged man had a look of disdain. Oh, seems like it's getting interesting. Reason? Bing looked at the middle-aged man with a look of admiration. The reason is simple, to let Sai Lei vent her anger. I don't know. Bing did not care. Of course it's not too late for you to say it now. Oh, you want to talk about the consequences? Don't bother about such clichés. Obviously they are trying to poach you, tsk. It's already good that they did not chop them up and feed them to the dogs. If Crazy Tang was here they would already be minced meat. I'm still too kind. Sai Lei suddenly shouted, Duan Mu. She screamed, you guys are crazy. The lady was so angry that she laughed in her eyes. Sai Lei's position was extremely low, to actually spout such arrogant words to slap her killing intent soared and she was about to make a move. A resounding slap interrupted the middle-aged man's words. Sai Lei's face surfaced a smile and suddenly said, Duan Mu, slap her. The beautiful lady was shocked. Her attention was all on Duan Mu. She never thought that the spirit general would suddenly make a move. Her master was captured and she immediately fell into a passive situation. The two of them were stunned again. Suddenly they felt their bodies turning cold. Only then did they notice, Bing's passionate gaze seemed to want to swallow them up. Under the bright lights, in the spacious training grounds, mechanical weapons could be seen everywhere training. I said, don't come and disturb me for this period of time. Don't tell me you guys disregarded my words. Sai Lei's roar came from outside the door. It was obvious that she was extremely unhappy, and was on the verge of exploding. Her words stopped abruptly. He was a scheming person. After calming down from his anger, he immediately felt that Bing's sudden outburst most likely had a deeper meaning. In a fight between subordinates, people with a bit of status would not directly make a move that was too lowly. Without saying a word, Duan Mu knocked the two of them unconscious. He desperately prayed in his heart, please do not be implicated, please. I coincidentally had something to do in the spirit region, so I came to see you. Your father misses you and hopes that you can go back to visit him. The middle-aged man's smile was very amiable. Sai Lei said expressionlessly, Taurus constellation's Ivan family, one of the Taurus constellation's oldest distinguished families, they are truly rich. He suddenly raised his head and looked at the beautiful lady in astonishment. If the master is humiliated, the subject must die. How can you not do anything? When Duan Mu heard the lady scolding Sai Lei, his heart was already filled with surprise. Did this lady's brain get caught in a door? She dared to scold big sister Sai Lei. This kind of courage is truly worthy of respect. Slap, slap, slap. The loud slaps interrupted her screams. When he heard big sister Sai Lei's words, he immediately quivered. After being in the base for so long, he had more or less grasped the temper of the few leaders. Big sister was angry. Duan Mu quivered. Big sister. Bing bit on the cigarette. Through the lingering smoke, he quietly observed the man opposite him. Bing effortlessly dragged the middle-aged man over. He bit on the cigarette and slapped the middle-aged man's face. Papa. A wise man submits to circumstances. To call you a brat at this time is truly not a good choice. Pa. A few more slaps, completely stunning the middle-aged man. Chapter 451. The bronze door slowly closed. If the constellation inheritance was the backbone of the martial technique system, then unique martial techniques were the pinnacle and extreme of the various branches. The constellation inheritance relied on the development of star power, which allowed them to have a deep foundation, and allowed them to experience the perfection and development of generations of martial artists. In other words, the constellation inheritance was the product of group wisdom. Tang Tian, who was in the whirlpool of swords, screamed, but he secretly decided no matter how difficult Big Brother Jing Hao's request was, he had to complete it. Who's going first? Bing's gaze landed on the three of them. Bing was slightly nervous. In his era, the martial technique system had not developed to its current stage. Unique martial techniques were extremely rare, and unique cards were even rarer, so they would not be wasted in the Spirit Hall. The Spirit Hall was only used for temporary replenishment. and was mostly used in battles. But when he saw Jing Hao standing in front of him, he was still shocked. Suddenly he thought of the rumors. The rumors said that since young, Jing Hao had set his heart on creating his own sword technique, and from the looks of it the rumors were probably true. Although Hua Qinyun's background was huge, but why would Bing place all his hopes on Hua Qinyun? Of course he had other things to rely on, and that was the unique card in his hands. Senior wants me to be the reference? Jing Hao somewhat understood. Me. Tang Yi took half a step forward. Jing Hao praised, as expected of Senior Hunter. I heard that Senior is good at grooming students and I have finally experienced it today. With such a good opportunity, Jing Hao will naturally not miss it. When Adrian saw Jing Hao, his heart trembled. Jing Hao's aura was actually not released at all. Such extreme control made people speechless. Just based on this, it was not simple. Adrian said, if I am not wrong, Mr. Jing's sword technique emphasizes on precision and control, and for the tens of thousands of chaotic auras, to cause them to resonate to Mr. Jing's precision and control, it is a very strict test. What do you need me to do? Jing Hao was very straightforward. But Tang Yi took the initiative to find Bing, and strongly requested to participate in the upgrade. Number 07 Army Barracks had been renovated, and the functions of the Spirit Hall had been completely restored, which made Bing even more confident. After an extraordinary person died, even his soul would not be willing to be ordinary. Adrian muttered, I've been studying how to improve everyone's cultivation efficiency during this period of time. Mr. Jing must also know that this kind of situation couldn't last long. Currently, the star power concentration of the bear egg had reached a maximum of 43%. It would be a pity if he missed this opportunity. That's because I've thought of an idea that requires Mr. Arai's power. It sounds like your screams are full of energy. It seems like you're enjoying it. Jing Hao laughed. Alright, I'll wait for you here. Jing Hao nodded. Out of the 10 unique cards from Draco Constellation, Han Bingning, Liang Qiu, Amauri, Sima Xiangshan, Duan Mu and Qi Guang had 1 each, leaving him with 4. The unique cards were no longer useful to Tang Tian. Ling Su and Crane had their own inheritances, and Jing Hao was determined to create his own sword Dao. Constellations were always held in the hands of a few people, and the high-quality star power resources were usually controlled by a few people. But there were many martial artists in the world, and there were always some talented people, geniuses who were brimming with unique ideas. Although they did not have the abundant star power as their foundation, but at the same time they were not restricted. They wantonly displayed their talents, and in their hands, all sorts of inconceivable and amazing martial techniques were born. Adrian was well aware of the cruel competition within the Honorable Martial Alliance. To be able to be viewed as a genius young man, how could he not have a few tricks up his sleeve? They might be eccentric, ruthless, or gloomy, but the pride, persistence and determination that they had when they were alive were similarly preserved. Upon placing the spirit card on the bronze door suddenly released a cloud of smoke. Inside the smoke, a ferocious and ruthless figure could be vaguely seen roaring, occasionally looking through the smoke, causing the 3 of them to be fearful. Jing Hao turned his head and looked at Adrian in surprise. Adrian's reputation was rather good, especially in nurturing young people, and the other party was much older. Jing Hao politely greeted, Senior Hunter. Jing Hao was taken aback. Please guide me, Senior. But if he wanted them to improve further, he needed to use the unique card. He was also curious, what would happen if he used the unique card to improve his spirit general? Such a genius in any era would be the most dazzling. Even the constellation masters with overflowing power, when faced with these extraordinary geniuses, had to restrain their arrogance and show respect. In front of the Spirit Hall's bronze door, other than Tang Yi and Tang Chou, there was also a suave and calm figure in a white robe, young Master Magic Flute. Magic Flute was rather curious the entire way. The Southern Cross Army was also very far away from his era. From the looks of it, everything was going smoothly, and all that was left was to wait patiently. The unique cards that these geniuses left behind, other than their astonishing martial techniques, they also left behind their martial spirits. Adrian heaved a sigh of relief. To cause such a widespread resonance, we need a reference object. Let everyone compare it at the same time. Jing Hao immediately replied, Mr. Hunter, if you have any instructions, please do not hesitate to speak. The remaining 4 cards were all in Bing's hands, adding the unused Thunder Radiant Hammer. Bing had a total of 5 unique cards. This foolish brother has a request. Jing Hao continued. As expected of a unique card. Bing did not say anything. Out of the 3, Tang Yi's foundation was the worst, and the possibility of failure was the highest. The travel-worn Jing Hao, upon seeing the gigantic bear egg, could not help but be in a trance. He finally came out. The current him, his chi was reserved and looked like an ordinary person. But looking at Jing Hao, his heart moved. Mr. Jing. Jing Hao listened carefully. Although Adrian was not his opponent in terms of attainments in sword techniques, but in terms of Adrian's standard in grooming martial artists, he was 18 streets ahead of Jing Hao. Yaya saw Jing Hao and obediently stopped beating the drum. For some reason, its heart was filled with reverence towards Jing Hao. Adrian knew that Jing Hao held a high position by Tang Tian's side, so he would not neglect him, and personally brought Jing Hao to the center of the bear egg. Tang Tian, who was inside the whirlpool sword, had tears streaming down his face. As expected, big brother Jing Hao is loyal. Resonance. Adrian explained, the concentration of martial artists in the bear egg is the highest I have ever seen. The entire bear egg can accommodate 520,000 martial artists to train at the same time, and in truth, this place has never been empty. In such a small area to accommodate so many martial artists to train together, I realized that there is a very frequent energy resonance phenomenon. This rarely seen resonance phenomenon can raise the efficiency of true power training to a certain extent. Barak. This subordinate understands. Tang Ili landed on the ground and replied without turning back. He entered the spirit hall. The miserable shrieks inside the whirlpool sword's spirit tempering technique stopped, and became even more mournful. A smile appeared on Adrian's face. Coming to Tang Tian's place to find happiness was already a daily occurrence for everyone in the bear egg. This was its advantage, but it was also a limitation because its development route was unable to go against the nature of the star power itself. The ferocious chi from the spirit general made Bing's face reveal a look of joy. Gradually, the spirit general in the mist struggled and became weaker. Threads of mist seeped into the bronze door, and the figure of the spirit general, with a speed visible to the naked eye, became weaker and fainter. He laughed involuntarily. This weird name attracted the ridicule of everyone inside and outside. But this was Crazy Tang's style. The hesitation on Bing's face disappeared. Since Tang Yi had already entered, then there was no way out. Out of the 5 unique spirit cards, he picked out the weakest one, which was a 1-star unique spirit general card. I'd like to hear the details. Jing Hao asked curiously. How to raise the efficiency of training was always the goal of every constellation and powerhouse. Adrian was famous for grooming students. When he said that he thought of a way to raise the efficiency, it was probably not empty words. The contrast between the two caused Jing Hao's reputation to be very different. Some felt that he was undeserving of his reputation, some felt that he definitely had something special about him. He had a total of 5 unique spirit cards in his hands. Adrian had once seriously researched on Tang Tian, so of course he had some understanding of Jing Hao. For a very long time, Jing Hao's strength was not outstanding. Compared to Yi Zhaogu and the rest, he was still an honorable martial alliance's sword genius. Bing was quiet for a moment, then said, "Inside, I am most worried about you. If you want to continue to improve, you must have unique spirit cards. But if you fail, you'll be reduced to ashes." Looking at Adrian's back view as he left, Jing Hao turned to look at Tang Tian. "You and I are brothers. We are going to fight side by side again." Adrian admitted, "That's right, it was the whirlpool sword's spirit tempering technique that gave me inspiration. But to Mr. Jing's training it might be of help." Jing Hao's expression was sincere. "Brother, when the time comes, please shout louder. Please shout more miserably. I think no matter how difficult the situation is, as long as I think of your situation, I will definitely be filled with courage and definitely be able to complete this training." Originally, his name list did not include Tang Yi because Tang Yi's martial spirit was the weakest, the lowest level. Low-level martial spirits, the spirit generals that were produced, did not have much potential to improve. For Tang Yi to be able to reach his current level, it had already made Bing extremely surprised. Alive as an outstanding person, dead as a heroic spirit. That was a unique martial technique. Even Big Brother Jing Hao was like that. Is there no hope left in this world? Jing Hao stood in front of Tang Tian, looking at Tang Tian's 60m thick whirlpool sword. He clicked his tongue in wonder. "I never thought that you would actually use a swordsman's method to temper your martial spirit. and such a tyrannical and extreme method. Adrian continued, the stronger the energy resonance, the more helpful it is to the training of true power. This is what I am thinking. If everyone can resonate at the same time, then it will be of great help to the training of true power. Adrian nodded his head. Then I will go and prepare. Adrian said calmly, I want to ask Mr. Jing for a favor. Sounds like it is somewhat similar to the whirlpool sword spirit tempering technique. Jing Hao somewhat understood. Adrian replied solemnly, that's right. The requirements for this position are extremely high. It requires an extremely strong willpower, extremely strong control over true power, and extremely sensitive to qi. The resonance produced by hundreds of thousands of people will be centered around you, and you will be the center of the storm.